All right, let's start with Luigi Mangione.
United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Chanel Call live in a newsroom for us. Chanel, what can you tell us?
Yeah, coming to you live once again from our breaking news desk this morning, Mugo. And we just got this release from the U.S. Justice Department moments ago. I want to read to you part of it coming from Attorney General Pamela Bondi's office. It says, quote, Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. After careful consideration, I've directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case as we carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. It goes on to say that the murder was an act of political violence and that Mangione's actions involved substantial planning and premeditation.
It's like a little bit better if I turn the lights off, but it's still there. Death penalty for killing rich people? Yeah. Oh no. I mean, this is no. It's not worth it. I still can't see even with the lights on. So, hold on. What the hell is going on? I feel great. Otherwise, I don't know why. I don't have an issue with I don't have an issue with anything else. Look at my comments, please. You can have an ocular migraine without the pain. My first migraine didn't hurt. I just went blind. I've had the thing you're experiencing. I mean, it's fine. I'm not going blind. I just like. It feels like there's a light. You know when you stare at a light for too long and you can't see? When you stare at a light for too long and you can't see, that's what it feels like. Ocular migraine. Yeah, it kind of feels like this, or like a little bit like this. What the hell? Am I dying? What is going on? Apparently it's caused by stress.
I also want to mention that we knew that this was a possibility, Mugo, after Luigi Mangione was charged federally back in December. He first faced 11 state charges. That included murder as an act of terrorism, and this is in connection to the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangione has so far pleaded not guilty to those state charges, but the federal charges, they allow prosecutors to pursue the death penalty against him. Today, now, when we talk about capital punishment, AG Pam Bondi directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case. We know Mangione has not yet entered a plea in that federal case, but prosecutors have already said that these 2 state cases and federal cases will essentially proceed on parallel tracks, with the state charges expected to go to trial first.
Wow, some very important background and context there. Chanel Call.
Yeah, I mean, the Mangione cases and all of the escalated charges surrounding it are entirely because of politics. Luigi Mangione's actions being taken as an act of terror in the state of New York is specifically because of politics. On the federal case, Attorney General Pam Bondi pushing for this to be elevated or demanding the death penalty on it is once again pure politics. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to make an example out of him. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like this creates a unique opportunity for the court system, or at least his defense attorneys, to try to push for a mistrial. Like there is a lot of outside interference in this case. I don't know. I mean, I hope that they don't end up crucifying him. I also don't know if crucifying him like this is going to backfire, you know, in terms of like how people see him, how people treat this case, because he was seen as a relatively positive figure. And I don't think that the attitude has shifted by the broader American population. I think that they still look at what he allegedly did as not a inherently evil act, even though obviously murder is evil, right? Murder is bad. It's unacceptable. Allegedly, Luigi Mangione's alleged murdering of Brian Thompson. The very fact that in a country like America, where people are incredibly draconian and have this very straightforward approach to law, order, justice, the very fact that like they would still look at a situation like this as an open and shut case and still go, yeah, well, the other guy has a lot more bodies because he's a private healthcare CEO is wild to me. it is indicative of how much pain private healthcare has caused in this country. And I think that this kind of prosecutorial overreach is inevitably going to cause more of a backlash. More of a backlash in favor of Luigi Mangione and also against the administration. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Americans are so hog-minded that they'll turn around and go, no, actually, we were wrong for the things that we thought and the things that we said, you know? Maybe hogs will get in line and say, yeah, no, Luigi was a bad guy. He's a terrorist. He deserves the death penalty. Who knows? But he is very white, and he does come from a wealthy family. A lot of these things optically play a formative role in garnering support for Luigi's actions beyond the fact that beyond who his target was.
Voters going to the polls this morning. High stakes elections in
Murder
Florida.
is never a
Two
valid
seats are on
excuse
the
for anything. Yeah, it's not. But that's not what is this? He's guilty as open and shut. He's not positive he's a murderer. I wouldn't praise him if he murdered a parent. You wouldn't praise him if he murdered a parent of yours. Murder is never a valid excuse for anything. Yeah, the entire point here isn't whether murder is good or bad. I think everyone understands. First of all, allegedly, we don't know if he did it. Innocent until proven guilty. That's number one. Number two, I can't believe I can barely fucking see the screen in front of me, and I'm still using that limited amount of vision that I have to respond to a silly ass chatter who is refusing to understand that it is not. The interesting part about this conversation, this back and forth, is not whether or not murder is wrong. Everyone understands that. Okay, everyone understands murder is bad. If that's how people dealt with issues, I mean, society would collapse. You just go up and be like, all right, well, you wronged me. I'm going to kill you now is not exactly going to make for a stable society. Now, having said that, the reason why people still have a sympathetic outlook on him, even though Americans also usually operate in this, with this, I just hear so many people praise him, and I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Yeah, you don't get it. I don't know what your background is. I don't know what your, what your family's wealth looks like. But there's a reason why so many people praise him, and that is because they understandably see someone like Brian Thompson as a placeholder for an incredible amount of death and destruction. So much so that even Americans who normally have the exact same attitude that you have are looking at the situation and going, yeah, well, I mean, it's a little bit of a vigilante justice moment, because they see Brian Thompson functionally as a serial killer. Okay? Because people like Brian Thompson engage in the act of social murder. It is systematized murder. It is processed murder. It's murder through paperwork, but it's murder nonetheless to the individual who watches their loved ones suffer through their cancer treatment and have to forego treatment because they can't pay for it because their insurance decided to deny that claim. It's like that is, for them, whether it is being done by the stroke of a pen or with a sniper rifle or with a bullet, is still, it's still experienced as murder. That's the way they see it. Just because it's done for profit doesn't change that reality, right? Maybe you don't live in the United States of America, though, because maybe that's the reason why you don't understand it. But that is what it is. He left right after that explanation. Maybe he's still in here. I don't know. You often argue that criminal migrants should be locked up in the U.S. It would be disingenuous for you to argue that allegedly murderer should not go to jail. What? Should not go to jail. Not that you are doing that. It would be am I reading this correct? It would be disingenuous for you to argue that an allegedly murderer should not go to jail. Okay, first of all, there's a difference in the crimes. We're talking about someone who's done a serial rape or something. What? No sentence, convict for murder? What? I'm confused as to what you're saying. Maybe my brain is also breaking down aside from my vision. So maybe I don't know what you were trying to say. I've said if someone has gone through the legal process and has been convicted of a heinous act, a gruesome crime, a murder or a rape or something like that, I think that yes, justice should be served. Okay? If Luigi Mangione was a undocumented immigrant, I would still have a fairly similar attitude about it all. That his citizenship status or his documentation would not change my attitude at all, because I'm looking at the individual deed.
Line where Republicans have a slim majority in the House. And in Wisconsin, there's a race for a seat on the state's Supreme Court. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is outside a polling place in Milwaukee. Rachel, these elections are about...
Okay, maybe it's a sinus-related situation, because when I do this to relieve pressure, I can see better, weirdly enough.
the balance of power in the House, essentially.
Yeah, definitely, George. And not only that, it could be the first real test of how voters across the country are feeling about President Trump's agenda. So let's start here in Wisconsin, where there is a battle over a single seat on the state Supreme Court. You have the conservative judge, Brad Schibel, running against a liberal county judge, Susan Crawford. The outcome of this race will determine the balance of power on the state Supreme Court, and that could have big implications for future rulings on abortion rights, election and voting laws, but also the way the congressional maps could be redrawn in this state, which could ultimately determine control of the U.S. House of Representatives. President Trump has backed the conservative judge. Elon Musk was here handing out $1 million checks. But of course, Democrats are hoping this does turn into a referendum on President Trump's agenda. Over in Florida, there are two special elections. One is to replace former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who President Trump initially tapped to serve as his attorney general. And the other is to replace his national security advisor and former Congressman Michael Waltz. Now, both of those districts are traditionally red, but Democrats still making a play. They are keenly aware that House Republicans have a narrow majority, and what happens today could ultimately either expand that or shrink it, Michael.
Yeah, big implications, as you said there, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Turning now to an election in Wisconsin with big national implications for a...
Hey, I support Luigi, but I went through his tweets. I'm sorry that I'm being woke of the day, but his tweet on Japan really irked me as an immigrant myself. How do I cope with that? Not asking rhetorically, really asking as an honest question. I don't care, you know? I just don't care. That's it. I don't have, my expectations are not, go to urgent care, my guy. Everybody fucking shut up. It's fine, okay? Calm down. All right, let's get to the Wisconsin Supreme Court race.
Seat on the state Supreme Court. Check the numbers out. It's the most expensive judicial contest in...
What did he say that could make you feel more empathy for a millionaire CEO? No, it's not even a millionaire CEO. It's a millionaire CEO whose entire livelihood relies on denying the average American the healthcare coverage that they paid for. Okay? That's an entirely different, that's a totally different spectrum of pain. We're not talking about, like, I don't know, a millionaire CEO that fucking sells paint or something, okay? Like sitting on top of sitting on top of an empire that sells paintbrushes and paint supplies. We're talking about like a dude whose livelihood directly involves your parents getting fucked over and possibly dying. Claim denials are directly a form of violence. What if the paint has cancerous chemicals? Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the equivalent in this situation. You know what I mean? If the CEO was knowingly, selling cancerous paint, and just like tens of thousands of people every year were just dying because of the cancer in the cancer they were getting from the toxic chemicals in the paint itself or something, like that would be the equivalent. And it would have to be done in such a serialized, systematized way that like virtually every other paint company was doing the same exact practices, and tens of thousands of people were dying because of this every year. And then someone was like, fuck you, I'm taking revenge. Yeah, that would, like, it would have to happen over such a long period of time where like Americans that normally never understand systematic violence would be able to see what this paint CEO was doing as a systematized version of violence, like a social murder, if you will.
History. Billionaire Trump advisor Elon Musk has been heavily involved in this campaign. Ed O'Keefe is in Milwaukee. Ed, good morning.
Well, good morning. This race wouldn't normally draw so much out-of-state attention, but coming 2 months after President Trump took office in this key battleground state with so many issues at stake as well, it's kind of the perfect mix. We spoke with the two candidates stuck in the middle of this proxy fight. A high-stakes statewide election drawing national attention.
It's a big race. I love Wisconsin.
The race for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court between Democratic-backed Susan Crawford and GOP-endorsed Brad Schimmel has raked in.
Actually, I just realized paint is not even an appropriate analog here, because paint has utility. Private healthcare does not. It doesn't need to exist at all. I just realized that even there is quite literally no reason for this expensive middleman to exist in this process, and it is only there to make money for the company. That's it. It has no use. It is only a burden. That's why it's even Paint CEO is not an appropriate analog here. It's just you also need healthcare. You don't need paint. No, but they are not providing healthcare. They are providing healthcare insurance. Yes, you need healthcare. You don't need healthcare insurance technically. And the only way that these guys make money is by denying you coverage that you paid for. That's how they make their money. It's just so messed up when you think about it. I don't know. I don't know how more people are not constantly losing their minds over how ridiculous this is.
In big money, a record $80+ million, a large part from billionaire donors like Elon Musk. Why do you think he wants to spend so much money on this race?
I think that Elon Musk is looking at this as kind of a test case because he's got business interests all over the country and probably litigation all over the country. So he wants to have some influence and some access to the Wisconsin judiciary.
Crawford says she's focused on the issues facing the battleground state.
It can be things like fair elections, the right to vote.
I'm getting reports from Wisconsin chatters, the cheesehead chatters in here. This is not the first one that has said this, but holy crap, just finished voting and there was a freaking line. My tiny ass ward doesn't even have one line. It doesn't have a line on presidential years. Yeah, this could be good or bad. It could be because Elon Musk's initiatives have actually drawn a lot of support and more people are aware of it and it's bringing Republicans out in large numbers. Or it is because, as special elections goes, a lot of Democrats who are laser focused on undermining the Trump agenda are using any opportunity they can to do so, and therefore they are going out and voting in droves in an effort to make sure that they don't give another W to Trump or Elon Musk. I really hope it is the second thing and not the first. I really hope it's not that Elon's initiatives have been incredibly successful. I'm going to say doomer and try to be wrong on purpose. Yeah, I really, really hope it's the second thing. It's that people are listen, we don't like the Democrats all that much, but it doesn't really matter right now because, we're going to do anything we can in our power to undermine the agenda of the right here. I'm leaning on the hopeful side. I am leaning on the hopeful side. And the only reason why I'm leaning on the hopeful side is because regardless of how dumb I would say a lot of Americans are, or how oblivious a lot of Americans are to the broad cruelty of this administration, they're still very annoyed. They're annoyed with Elon. They're annoyed with Doge. They're annoyed with Trump. They're annoyed with the markets. They're annoyed with the tariffs and the instability. And also Democrats are historically the ones who outperform the Republicans in special elections in general, because they're the ones who are way more, they're the high propensity voters. So all of that combined, I hope, is leading to a decent victory here for the Dems. I don't know. All the major indexes are red now. Yes, every single one. How is this man paying people to vote? Isn't it against the law? Yeah, but when you're rich, you can do whatever you want. Please. Don't you know that if you're rich, you're allowed to violate the laws are simply suggestions for you, okay?
Healthcare, privacy, reproductive rights.
Schimmel, who's endorsed by President Trump and Musk, offers a clear contrast.
I'm not really running on policy issues. I'm running on the need to restore objectivity to the court. That judges shouldn't be making policy decisions at all.
Chad Oldfather is a law professor at Marquette University. Why would a bunch...
That also is not exactly that's not exactly a confident man. Okay. That in and of itself is not, there's not a lot of motion there. You know, there's not a lot for the Republicans who did their job. They went out, they voted, they got the great white hope to be in power again. You need something more. You need like real harm being done to you. If you're a Republican right now, you're either riding high on the victory of Donald Trump and you think it's based, okay? Or you're looking at the situation and you're like, maybe not so based. I really thought that things would get better. It hasn't gotten better yet. I'll wait to see how this goes. But all of that, in my opinion, is not exactly enough for someone to take time out of their day to go out and vote for a Supreme Court justice in the state of Wisconsin. You know what I mean? It's not.
A bunch of billionaires want to pony up millions of dollars if it's only to deal with issues in this one state.
I think part of it is that this is such a key state. If you believe that this court might change the congressional maps in this state, which might have the effect of altering the balance of the House of Representatives, then yeah, it could matter.
There are also special elections today in a much warmer place, Florida. First up, the race to succeed Matt Gaetz, that former congressman who had been President Trump's first pick for Attorney General. A race in the 1st Congressional District. Over in the 6th Congressional District of Florida, the race to succeed Mike Waltz.
You say that, but have you ever been in Wisconsin? No. Hearing the entire FOIA office at cdc.gov has been eliminated, that is insane. Radically transparent administration, baby.
Current national security advisor also being held. Republicans expected to win in both of these races, but Democrats are hoping that their margins are a little better, given all the anger directed at the president.
All right, we know you'll keep watching it. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And obviously, so many eyes also on Wisconsin, made most of all. And that's where we find NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, live outside a polling place in Waunakee, Wisconsin. Shaquille, good to see you this morning. Give us the latest there. This is a closely watched, highly expensive race.
That's exactly right. Look, this is Wisconsin. You expect to see these competitive races. You're expecting to see those expensive races. But this is another top race that people are watching. And at the top of the ticket, at the top of the ballot, there is this race for Wisconsin's Supreme Court, where ideological control of the court is up for grabs. This is a court that is used to hearing some pretty meaty issues, everything from abortion rights to voting rights to union rights. It's considered all of those in the past couple of years, and it's expected to consider some of those issues in the years to come. But despite the weighty issues this court is going to be hearing, it's Elon Musk that has been driving much of the narrative, much of the attention, and has been on the minds of many of the voters, including one who I just talked to as she was walking out of here, saying that it's Elon Musk's spending in this race and the focus that Democrats have put on him that got her out here to vote in this election that she said she normally wouldn't participate in. And that's because we saw, even just this past weekend, Elon Musk came here, flew to the state of Wisconsin, had that $1 million check giveaway for signers of his petition. He also gave people $100, his super PAC gave people $100 for signing that petition. He's been front and center in many of the ads from the liberal candidate in this campaign. I talked to both candidates. I went to some of their events, and I talked about the fact that, yes, there's a lot at stake with this court seat, but I talked to them about how they feel about Elon Musk being front and center. Susan Crawford, the liberal candidate, said essentially that Elon Musk is her main opponent in this race, not the conservative judge, Brad Schimmel. Listen to what both of them told me when I asked about the Musk factor in this race.
He has spent over $22 million and counting on this race, and it is just unprecedented. This has never happened before in any kind of state judicial race or even any state race at all that I know of. Elon Musk is coming into the state of Wisconsin to try to buy a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I think people across the country should be pretty worried about that.
He can do whatever he wants with his money. That's his money. It's not my business. If there's a problem with this, that's somebody else's problem to work out. It's not mine. It's not my business. If I gave somebody $1,000, my wife would have a talking to with me, but that's not my problem.
Schimmel there, also endorsed by President Donald Trump. And before today, you had about 650,000 voters across the state casting a ballot, voting early. Of course, you see the flow of people here behind me. And also on that ballot, I should mention, is a move to elevate the voter ID law in this state and put it into the state constitution. That's also been a motivating factor for some conservatives here, guys.
All right, NBC's Shaquille Brewster live from Wisconsin. Thank you very much. And joining us now, politics reporter for Semaphore, Dave Weigel, and former MSNBC host and contributor to Washington Monthly, Chris Matthews joins us. Good to have you both.
Not friend of the show,
Dave,
Chris Matthews.
it is so hard to predict.
There you go. You got friend of the show, Dave Weigel, and enemy of the show, Chris Matthews. Is your eyesight better? Yes, it's getting better.
Anything after the election last year. And I say that because the media, Democrats, even some Republicans were highly skeptical that they could get low propensity, younger male voters out. And that's exactly what they did. So, you know, would normally say those people don't vote in off-year elections, but hard to say. What are you hearing out of Wisconsin? Are they going to come out again this time to vote in a judicial race?
Before he actually traveled there, I was in the state for early voting.
We smoking that Luigi pack is so funny. This is how you know Republicans have no values and no interest whatsoever in anything other than like whatever they consider to be is the left position or the liberal position and owning it. It's like, what do you mean? Are you a healthcare are you a private healthcare insurance executive? Like, what are you talking about? Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. We're smoking on that Luigi pack. It's such a funny fucking take to have. It's like, bro, they're killing your mother. They're killing your father. They're just, when they are not going to be able to pay for their cancer treatment, you'll see who's smoking on, okay? The administration is up in arms defending for-profit healthcare and trying to make an example out of this person. Especially because of all of the enthusiasm that this person received, right? In a blatantly illegal act that we don't even know if he did or not, right? Allegedly he did it. I thought this would mean he's with Luigi, Gen Z here. No, he's saying we smoking on that Luigi pack, as in like he's gonna get the death penalty. Hell yeah, I'm glad he's getting the death penalty. It's just very odd. I find it strange to be fighting with the admin on this. I don't know. Like you're not like an edgy boy, you know? You're not edgy at all.
When it started, Musk had really papered the state.
Hands off my CEO.
Republican voters with ads that said, this is an election that can help Donald Trump. You need to turn out again to vote for Donald Trump. You've got Turning Point Action is in the state doing the same thing. Don Jr. was in the state, and they were trying to make this an election about Trump because you're right. Their theory was if you just get 63% of those Trump 2024 voters to show up, you win this race. And Republicans historically have been able to do that. The bullish theory on Musk going there is if you want to give him credit for some of the victory in Pennsylvania last year, if you want to say there are young men who don't pay attention to politics but love him, listen, you know, they're invested in Tesla, etc., that he's excited them by showing up, you can. But at the same time, the Democratic strategy, and you heard Crawford say it, has been to say this is not about this Republican judge. This is not one of those races that's going to be about how they'd rule on the bench. It is an attempt by Elon Musk to buy the state. Their polling said that he's really unpopular, and their early vote, as usual in Wisconsin, they've gotten good at this. The Democratic early vote, they're very confident. Crawford won that pretty big. They're skeptical that all these men we've been talking about, who they didn't even vote for their Senate candidate when Trump was on the ballot. They voted for Trump and came home. That's just not going to be possible for them to come out for somebody who's not Donald Trump as a stand-in for him.
So, Chris Matthews, we're used to these elections that come so soon after a presidential contest. We sometimes it's the Virginia, New Jersey gubernatorial races, and now it's this Wisconsin Supreme Court matter. But we're used to it being sort of a referendum of a sort about how a president's doing. But what's so striking and unusual about this one, sure, it's about Trump, but really, in many ways, it's about Elon Musk.
Yeah, and I think the television pictures are going to be powerful. That the cheesehead, everybody in Wisconsin is going to see that, and they'll know what it means. And has he earned the right to wear that cheesehead? There he is.
Oh, God. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I hate how corny and dumb people are getting. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. How are people responding to this positively? How do you not immediately turn around and go, this is gross. I don't want anything to do with this. I was about to vote for the Republican until this very moment, and then I laid my eyes on this, and I realized, like, this is awful.
Doesn't seem like he looks like an Araviste, a guy that shows up with a lot of money, spending millions of dollars, giving $1 million gifts away to people who are on the right side with him politically. But this is in the environment of a lot of concerns about Social Security, in an environment where, of course, abortion rights is always there, but also about Signalgate. Signalgate's right in the air, and the president has said it's over, it's closed, I've closed it, I've given a pardon to these people. I know who did it, but I'm not saying I'm going to tell you who did it. So he's acting like a big shot. This guy, Musk, is clearly acting like a big shot. I think they're going to say no to it.
I was going to ask you, Chris. I mean, you know the Upper Midwest well. I mean, you're a Pennsylvania guy. Yeah. How do they respond to Elon Musk coming in? You know, and by the way, I hear a lot of people giving Elon Musk credit for winning Pennsylvania. I mean, you know, Trump won Pennsylvania. I mean, you and I know how politics work. They vote for the guy on the top line. They don't vote for endorsers or this or that or the other. I'm just curious. This race is about Musk in Wisconsin, not so much even about Trump. How does that play?
I think it plays badly. I think people are going to say, you know, this is a tough state. Wisconsin's always been decisive, going all the way back to the Kennedy-Humphrey debate, the primary back in '60. It's always mattered, and it's always been close. And I think they're going to say, wait a minute, my vote counts, his vote doesn't. Giving away $1 million gift certificates for voting and supporting the right side, it must bother people. And that Republican candidate, did you see that weird answer he had? I don't care what's going on about his spending his money. Of course you care. He's spending money for your side. You got to talk about that and what voters feel about that. This is democracy. You don't have to. You shouldn't be buying elections so flagrantly. Look at this. This is flagrant. Look at the check. Look at the $1 million checks. I think people would say, I don't want to have anything to do with this kind of.
I think it's insane that this race has, this is yet another race where the needle is moved, where there are hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on a special election on a Supreme Court judge. Like, how do people not realize that this is insane? How do people not look at this and go, dude, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like, Elon Musk doing this comical $1 million check thing is not even the most psychotic aspect of this. Elon Musk personally contributed to the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been spent on this, right? Spent on this individual race, but like, they're spending Senate race money now. America is so cooked, man. How is this democracy? How is this democracy?
Politics, I think.
Well, we'll see.
I think Wisconsin goes for the Democratic judge.
All right.
Where's George Soros when we need him? George Soros has no motion. He has nothing. He is a broke boy in comparison to Elon. George Soros' net worth is like $7 billion. Elon's net worth is like 700 gorillion. What are we doing? Oh, I don't want any billionaires. Okay. How about no billionaires? No George Soros, no Mark Cuban, no Elon Musk. No Miriam Adelson, none of it. It's so crazy. I am fundamentally against wealthy people being able to buy support.
Joining me now is Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. Charlie, great to see you tonight. Now, we have seen a lot from the Democrat Party since 2020. We've seen what they're capable of. But what is it about Elon Musk and what he's doing that really has turned them into insane, total lunatics and criminals?
It's two primary things. Just like President Trump, he's a class traitor. He used to be part of the ruling class of the country, and he decided to defect from the orthodoxy of what it means to be a wealthy, polite person in America.
What is this haircut? What is this haircut, bro? It's like the Vegeta. Like he went to the barber and was like, "Give me the Vegeta. I need that." Is a straight up pyramid on his forehead. What is happening? Yes, Vegeta. I know. I like saying Vegeta. It's funny. Most nerds try to hide the receding hairline. Kirk is displaying it. I don't know what he's trying to display here. It's just wild. It's especially funny because his head is so large and his face is so tiny on his ginormous head. So then there's way more real estate here.
America and said, you know what? No, I'm not going to go along with the zeitgeist of the times. I'm going to challenge this idea that we have open borders and that we're wasting all of this money. So he is a class traitor, and President Trump is the most popular class traitor of this generation. So President Trump and Elon Musk have that in common. But number two is he used to be a darling of the left. Not as much as President Trump. I'd never say that President Trump was on the left, but he used to be loved by all these networks. But Elon Musk used to be the poster child of environmentalism, of clean entrepreneurship, of forward-thinking innovation. Barack Obama used to do cameos and newspaper articles and interviews alongside Elon Musk saying, this is the best of the American entrepreneur. But now that Elon Musk has decided to use his fame and, most importantly, his fortune to uncover the hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and to support President Trump, they have now unleashed the hordes of left-wing activists after Tesla owners, dealerships, workers, even cheering on the decline of the Tesla stock. So President Trump and Elon Musk being class traitors and formally friendly.
Class traitors. Yesterday, we covered Alex Jones talking about the dialectic. Today, we're hearing Charlie Kirk utilize the term class traitors. What did you think of Tesla back in 2014? I have never been a fan of Elon Musk. There's never been a moment where I liked Elon Musk. One, because I thought he was too fucking annoying. And two, because he's a billionaire. Okay? If you have an inherent antagonistic attitude towards billionaires, you are always going to be in the right. Okay? Do not trust billionaires. They will always betray you. That's it. You can't make $1 billion. You rich too? Oh my God. One, you should also have an inherent antagonistic attitude towards rich people, myself included. Okay? That is healthy. That is a healthy thing to do. But if you are comparing me to someone like Elon Musk, you are fucking stupid. Okay? Me, you, and even people who have $100 million, as a matter of fact, are closer to a homeless person on the street than they are to Elon Musk. Do you understand? Like, people with $100 million are still closer. It sounds insane. It sounds impossible to comprehend. People with $1 billion, I believe, are closer to homelessness than they are to Elon Musk. That is how much Elon Musk's wealth, that's how large Elon Musk's wealth is. You have no understanding of anything, numbers, size, anything. If you cannot comprehend this. 1 million seconds is like 13 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. Okay? If I ask you to wait 1 million seconds, you'd be waiting for 12 days. If I ask you to wait 1 billion seconds, you'd be there for 34 years roughly. Something along those lines. Do you understand how different of a scale that is? Do you understand how insane that is? I think the problem is with numbers, people have no understanding of the difference between 1,000 and 1 million, and people have no understanding of the difference between 1 million and 1 billion, let alone hundreds of billions. Okay? The scale, the magnitude difference there is impossible to comprehend. I don't know how else to describe it. We're talking just about 1 billion. Elon Musk has 300 of those 1 billions. Here is Reckful explaining. This is a very famous thing that he did a long time ago. Rest in peace to Reckful. Describing the difference between billionaires and millionaires.
Now, we have someone named Amhai who is top Twitch donator of all time. He has like probably $1 billion, right?
Right.
There are people in the world with $1 billion, regardless. Okay. Anyways, $1 billion, that's a big fucking number. We can see that there's a lot of zeros on top of the 100,000, but we don't really feel it. You don't really feel it until you go like this. Even though it's 10,000 times more, but here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 500,000. Copy paste that. That's $1 million, okay? Then we have to go 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 million. Let's copy paste that. That's 10 million, okay? Let's copy paste the 10 million. That's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 million, okay? Let's copy paste the 100 million. Okay, that's 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, $1 billion, okay? And now I'm high, and I'm gonna donate Soda Pop in $100,000 like this.
Was that the elite key?
Yeah. And now we're gonna try to find the money that we're missing now. Okay?
It's on the right. It's on the right. I see it. There it is.
You saw it. It was right there. But it's kind of hard to feel it. If I put it somewhere in the middle, you guys probably wouldn't find it. But you know what? You wouldn't find it for sure. Let's donate $2 million to my good friend Vinruki. And he could... Actually, let's donate this... Let's donate fucking $4 million. He could probably live a swell life with $4 million. Here, I'm high. I'm giving Vinruki $4 million. Real quick. $4 million. I actually do not notice it's gone. I can never find it again. It's really difficult. You know? Because it's just lines missing. I'm not going to count my lines. There's so many. Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't think you guys understand. This is just 1 billion. Elon has 300 plus of these, okay? It's just, it is impossible to comprehend. People do this all the time. There are a million YouTube videos about this. Like, you got so many different YouTubers who have tried to explain this, the scale, the magnitude, how different how different the numbers look like. It's so funny. Whenever people come in, and go, Hassan, you're rich too, big dog. You and I are not even a speck of fucking dust together, okay? In comparison to one guy's wealth. This is just one guy. There are hundreds of guys like Elon out there. Yeah, I mean, eat the rich text format. Wealth shown the scale. Here. Wait, why can't I scroll? I'm scrolling. It's not working though. Oh, you got to go right. Yeah. $1,000. 63 is the median U.S. household income. Here's $1 million. Here is $1 billion. Here's $139 billion. And that's Jeff Bezos. It's still going. Still going. Still going. Jeff's so wealthy that it's quite literally unimaginable. Let's keep going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Maybe it'll go. Maybe it'll be done eventually. We rarely see wealth inequality represented to scale. This is part of the reason Americans consistently underestimate the relative wealth of the super rich. Still going. Look at the bar down here. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this because it still goes. It's still, like, look at the bar. Anyway, and by the way, this was when Jeff Bezos had 139 billion. His wealth has gone up, obviously, since then. Please, please, please try to comprehend. This is not only one rich person. He's not the richest person. Elon Musk is almost 3 times wealthier than Jeff Bezos. Now, that in and of itself is not even the full scale of the problem. Okay? That in and of itself is not even the full scale of the problem. The entire system is designed from the bottom up to represent the interests of people like Elon Musk, all the way down to the individual small business owner, those who own capital, those who hire people, hire wage laborers. Do you understand? So it's not even just like one singular billionaire could potentially solve this issue. It's not even that Elon Musk could, if he tomorrow got hit with like the socialism beam, would be able to dismantle the capitalist structure. One person cannot do that. Elon Musk, being as wealthy and as powerful as he is, would still not be able to do that on his own. Okay, he would not be able to buy his way to socialism. That, of course, would be stupid anyway. Why the fuck would he do that? Of course he wouldn't do that. The only way to change this system is through the bottom up. The only way to change the system is by recognizing your class position. Okay? The only way to change the system is by organizing. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that you have, the one thing that we all have, is numbers. If this was a truly democratic process, we would have been able to undermine this current existing hierarchy a long time ago. That's it. I could have $1 billion and it would be nowhere near, that money alone would not be able to put a dent in the structures that exist. As opposed to me doing this every day to 35,000 people. That is significantly more important. Okay? That's it. Let's continue.
With the left, boy, that animates them because they're trying to say, to make an example, you are not allowed to leave the ranks of high society left-wing thought.
Oh, sharp analysis, Charlie. All right. Turning Point USA, I know, spoke to some of these protesters in Phoenix. Let's watch.
We need to focus on getting Musk out. And he has absolutely no right to have his sticky rich fingers in the American people's money.
Elon Musk is in our Treasury Department with his 19-year-old cronies, and I'm worried about my Social Security.
He should be locked up and removed from this country.
He has absolutely no idea what he's doing. It is my understanding that Elon Musk does not have any kind of degree in economics.
So I don't get it. None of those guys said anything wrong. Oh, sorry, I burped. None of those guys said anything wrong. They were correct. What's the problem here? That they just like disagree? Is that what it is? Normally, at least they try to find people that they can like belittle and claim are just like silly or whatever. But in this instance, like they didn't even get any. They didn't even catch anyone like being silly or whatever. They just disagree with them, I guess.
I'd like to see his degree. Charlie, it's all the same tired talking points. Some of them don't even look like they believe what they're saying. It's almost like a performative experience for them.
That's right. First of all, credit to our amazing Turning Point USA team of front lines of gathering that footage. Some of those protesters can get rather violent, so they've done a great job. The left right now, if they get their way, they want to destroy the singular most successful American manufacturing story of the last couple decades. We're actually building cars in our country, and we're building rockets in our country, and we are the world leader on both, and they want to destroy both of that. Why? Because the politics don't align. And you can hear with some of those protesters, I totally agree, Laura, there's no thought, it's just repeating what the media has told them. But one thing that they mentioned at the end, what's his degree in economics? That's so important because Elon Musk is not an approved credentialed elite. He's not an expert. He's not a Dr. Fauci type. Instead, he built something. And that is a true threat to the American left. Someone that has taken a risk, that has built something of value, especially in the hardware space, not just the software space.
Charlie, very briefly, this Wisconsin Supreme Court race tomorrow is critical. And the media coverage of this is, Elon Musk is pouring all this money. Yeah, he is pouring a lot of money. And it's not as much as Soros and the gang, the billionaires on the left, because they want to take at least those 2 seats that could be gerrymandered with the Supreme Court's help and flip the House. That's what the ultimate goal is, and they hope ultimately impeach Donald Trump. That's what this is about. And, the media coverage of this is, it's typical.
It's massive. Wisconsin is the biggest election of 2025, according to the Wall Street Journal. We have Turning Point Action folks on the ground right now chasing ballots. We need massive turnout. If we lose in Wisconsin, we will not lose to the Democrats. We'll lose to the couch. We will lose because we did not go and show up in record numbers. We need a working class movement tomorrow in major numbers to make sure that Schimmel wins the Supreme Court race, because if not, it might result in the Democrats winning the House in 2026, and then impeachments and subpoenas, and the sequence of events from there would be detrimental to our republic. And it all starts tomorrow in Wisconsin. Also the special election for Randy Fine in Florida. Big
XQC's SF90. XQC has more money. XQC has more money. Yeah, he does. I know. What? What's the point? He has no motion in comparison to fucking Elon Musk. Juicers are so funny. I think the amount of money you have does not make you a better person regardless. I don't even think XQC would agree with that. Who cares? Why are you flexing another man's wealth? That's so strange. So odd. I have more money than you and your dad combined. Does that make me a better person? Probably not. Fuck. I would go so far as to say having more money usually, more often than not, makes you a worse person overall.
Big election time. I know we just got over an election, but tomorrow, big election day in Wisconsin and Florida. Go out and vote.
You bet, Charlie. Everyone's got to get off the couch and get to vote. Charlie, thank you as always.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interview. Meanwhile,
Democrats pull an all-nighter protesting Trump and Musk on the Senate floor. Careful, there's an increasingly large possibility that Chatter is Elon Musk's kid. Is Charlie Kirk so successful on TikTok because he's convinced right-wingers that they are the party of the working class? I mean, it's just the algorithms have boosted him, and it was most likely to get a guy who's in Trump's ear, who's in Trump's orbit, to feel safe about TikTok, and they succeeded. TikTok opened up the algo faucet for the likes of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk popped off big time. Donald Trump got a lot of benefits off of TikTok. It's not just TikTok, of course. I think all social media platforms have been pumping right-wing comments, right-wing commentary, like flooding the marketplace with unrestricted right-wing commentary for quite a while. And they did it in a way where they could finally see the benefits. Like the Republicans could finally recognize the benefits. And therefore, we are where we're at now, where the right loves TikTok. Trump loves TikTok. All but Reddit and the right-wing grifters are so mad about that. I mean, Reddit is also kind of right-wing from where I'm standing. Because they're knapsack liberals, you know?
Didn't take no hero to
Yeah,
fly
their
into a
filibuster
missile.
is getting like
The
67,000
good pilots don't
views
get shot
on the
down.
live stream.
And I knew then and there that I really liked
But,
him,
like-
because he was right. The real heroes were the buddies who carried me out
It's
of that.
weird. Like, yeah, as chatters are saying, Megaphonics is right. It's not even a particular bill or nomination. They're just doing a long speech for PR. I just don't understand like why they didn't do this for the clean, for the supposed clean continued resolution. Like if they had deployed this filibuster, if they filibustered in some bitches during the fucking CR, this would be a fantastic opportunity. All eyes locked in. This would be great. This would be the right opportunity. Megaphonics is right. Now say April Fool's please, or we'll never hear the end of it. I mean, he's right. When he's right, he's right. I'm fair, man. I call balls and strikes. Cory Booker's anti-Trump speech on the Senate floor has lasted 19 hours and counting. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, look, I'm not gonna discount it. It's not the worst thing. I'm glad that they're like fighting, I guess. But even when they are, it just doesn't make any sense. I got to pee again.
Let's talk a little bit about while you were sleeping. It all started about, 11 hours ago. It looked just like that. Cory Booker, the senator from the state of New Jersey, started a marathon speech, and he made it very clear. He said, I'm going to keep going as long as I'm physically able. And what he's doing, and is doing live right now as he puts on his glasses, is he's talking about the actions taken by Donald Trump over his administration thus far. Not happy about any of it. But keep in mind, he's part of the Democratic leadership in the Senate, and Democrats are under pressure from their base to do more to stand up to Donald Trump.
How does this work?
So he's standing up against Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump is down the street.
Do the senators all have to be there?
Nope.
They have to stay there all night?
No, it's not even blocking any
Is he
legislation.
speaking to anyone?
Nobody.
So he just wants national attention.
a few fans. Well, there are a couple other senators who occasionally ask him questions, and he yields the floor. But by yielding for a question, then he still controls the floor. This is not a filibuster, by the way.
So here's what you missed last night when you made that dumb decision to sleep.
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis. We are not solving the deficit in what they're proposing here. They're cutting and cutting and cutting things that make no sense to cut, and they're doing it for a tax breaks which disproportionately go to the wealthiest. Placing tariffs on our biggest trade partners is beyond unfair. This drives the cost of goods up, and the consumer is the one who ends up paying the increase. Even with universities got too woke and had two excesses, the antidote to that isn't to try to shut down the thought of the left. It's to try to make a fair, more competitive marketplace for ideas from all around the political spectrum.
How would you do that?
I mean, there's just several things that he said are just not true. He's still running on the tax cut for the rich. Not true. And most Americans understand that, and they believe that under the past administration.
I really hate Fox and Friends. I really, really hate it. It might be my least favorite program on television. It's just like objecting to observable reality every day of the week. That's all they do. All they do is just up is down, right is wrong. That's all they do. They just sit there and go, everybody knows it. This is wrong. It truly is mind-boggling. There is not a single point that they make that is correct. Not a single one. Why do we even watch it every day? Genuine question. Because Fox is one of the most successful broadcasters. It's the same reason why we watch Asmongold from time to time. Okay? You have to understand what your ideological enemies are saying and thinking in order to claw back your parents and your coworkers from the faucet of misinformation. You have to see what their notes are, where they're getting their notes from. This is why my entire career is overwhelmingly listening to right-wingers. And in that process, as a dedicated watcher of right-wing commentary, I have noticed that in the last couple of years, this has gotten significantly worse. Things have gotten spectacularly stupid. Genuinely. It's just, there's not too much you can say or do about a person that is getting their notes, from Fox News is not living in the real world. They are living in a made-up universe. They are not, it's just, there's no way that you can have a consensus.
When Donald Trump had his first term, that they got a tax break. They know that to be true. He also talks about the university campuses. So you're going to side with the people that are blocking the Jews from going to class right now? That's not going to work with the American people. And just over and over the talking points. If you want to get the American people attention.
Like every single thing he said is wrong, okay? He started out by saying, everybody knows that it's just not true, that Trump is not looking for taxes to the wealthy. Yes, he is. He is looking for taxes to the wealthy. That is precisely what he did his first term, and that's precisely what he said he's going to do the second term. I don't know why you would even deny this. That is precisely what he said.
Understand it, and they...
Okay. Then he turns around and talks about university campuses, claiming that the students are blocking Jews from going to class. Also, not true. Completely not true. It's not happening. Not real. I was there. And members of this community were there every day. It's not true at all. Okay? They were in a public space in the middle of campus. They were not blocking Jewish students from going to class. It is made up.
With the people that are blocking the Jews from going to class right now, that's not going to work with the American people. And just over and over the talking points. If you want to get the American people attention, you don't do it on the floor of the Senate.
Wait, I'm sorry. And then he follows this up by hitting one of the dumbest points, which is to turn around and be like, you can't protest this way. This filibuster is not allowed. It's like, what are people supposed to do then? Just quietly whisper to one another what their discontent is with the administration? Like, what are we talking about? That's so funny. The Fox guy's saying he has like 50,000 viewers on YouTube, 58K on TikTok, and like 30K on Twitter. Yeah, I think that this right here, even if it's like aesthetic resistance, paired up with Bernie Sanders and AOC getting a lot of attention, a lot of positive attention, should be a reminder to every Democrat that, like, you have to fight back. You have to fight back against the Trump administration.
You go and you start talking with voters. I'm not sure he's going to...
town hall, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is going to get much attention. I mean, we're probably the only people that are covering this right now. I don't think the American people care what he's saying on the floor.
Lord, here I am. And so I could confess...
Be in a world of Schumers, be a Booker. Oh, my God.
That I have been imperfect. I confess that I've been inadequate to the moment. I confess that the Democratic Party has made terrible mistakes that have given lane to this demagogue. I confess we all must look in the mirror and say we will do better. And it's not just defining ourselves what we're against. We, the next generation, as the baby boomers are leaving the...
Yeah, they're not even doing like a real filibuster because there's no motion. There's no quorum. There's no motion or bill that they're blocking. It's just they're taking space. That's what it is. Overall, I think I'm leaning on the side of this is not the worst thing. I am not going to yell at Democratic Party senators or any representative, really, for that matter, any congressperson for that matter, that is at the end of the day doing anything. I wish they were doing this in the appropriate moment, which was, 2 weeks ago. That would have been cool.
And now it's our generation. We have to redeem the dream. We have to excite people again. He, in the highest office of our land, wants to divide us against ourselves, wants to make us afraid, wants to make us fear so much that we're willing to violate people's fundamental rights. We're willing to go after the speech on college campuses. We're willing to go after law firms, go after the freedom of the press. Don't let him do that. Don't become like him. Be an American that says, I look to the future and I'm excited. Yes, things are tough right now.
Oh, God. Ay, 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 it's just like, it's just, I'm thinking about all the Democrats that love this, where they're like, this is so sick. This is, oh my God, it's making me quiver a little bit, Dual chat. Sorry, I turned on the wrong thing. Look, I said the same thing about AOC and Bernie's rallies. It's great that they are getting people excited. It's great that they're getting people excited. It's great that they're, getting people to turn out. But you got to use that people power. You got to take that momentum you have and that energy you have around your causes and your initiatives and move it into developing mechanisms of pushback, mechanisms of pressure. Whether that be labor organizing, union organizing, community organizing, or whether that be individual issues that you give voice to, okay? Says you, like what? I like that people are saying, like what, as I'm in the process of describing, as I have described time and time again. And this is a worse version of what they're doing, what AOC and Bernie are doing anyway. I'm glad that they're doing this, but we need more. Also, ironically enough, a lot of people think I'm a politician, I think, or have any sort of power in changing the outcomes of the legislative body. Like, I yell at the Democrats every day. I yelled at the Democrats for capitulating to the Trump agenda and not using the one weapon that they had to push for concessions from the Republicans when they had the budget. I'm not a politician. I'm not within these caucuses. I can't talk to my coworkers who are also politicians and get them to be on board. I wish I had that power. But if I had that power, Chuck Schumer wouldn't be the minority leader in the Senate. And even if he was, he would be listening to me, don't you think? Starting Monday, I'm ending dual citizenship under the Espionage Act and all these traitors. Wait, this is not real, dude. What? This is not a real tweet, chatter. What are you talking about? Come on. I like, you can immediately tell that that's not a real tweet. People are coming in with like the lowest form of April Fool's tweeting. Thanks for giving me a heart attack. What? How did I give you a heart attack? I immediately told you it's not correct. It's not real. It's not a thing that he posted. Debates are getting worse. That's a recession indicator. True.
They're hard, they're scary, they're hurting, but we can overcome this. Our American history, if it's nothing else, American history, if it's nothing else, it is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against.
First of all, Trump would never end dual citizenship because that would mean he would have to end dual citizenship with Israel, okay? And he would end his own life before he would do that. Give me a break. I'm ending dual citizenship except for Israel, which is more America. It's America, extra America. It feels like if you have an Israeli citizenship, you're American plus. It's like we have Americans and then we have extra Americans.
Impossible odds. We are a nation that is great, not because of the people that are trying to whitewash our history. To remove great people, Native Americans, black people, and women from our military websites. I don't want a Disneyfication of our history. I don't want to whitewash history. I don't want to homogenize history. Tell me the wretched truth about America, because that speaks to our greatness. And so what do I want to people to do? It starts with us, man, and you're doing it. I've seen courage of my colleagues. We're doing it, but we have to do more, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a politician that's going to say, we are going to do more for you. I'm going to be a politician. I'm going to be a leader that demands more from America.
What? MSNBC spoke to Columbia students about Trump's attacks on academic freedom. That's interesting. It's especially interesting because MSNBC itself, with like Morning Joe, was actively daggering Columbia students and demanding that this basically happen. You know what I mean? What the Trump administration is doing those were the desires. Those were the fucking desires of Morning Joe. Directly. They spent every morning talking to Greenblatt. Oh, God. My mom loves Cory Booker. She just texted me. Oh, no. All squishy liberalism is back. Oh, man. Yep. Okay. Everybody loves... Okay. This is... I think people are so unimaginably desperate for any kind of motion, any kind of change, any kind of movement whatsoever from the Dems that, like, this is enough for them to get, like, libbed up on it. She is right. You are wrong on this. He needs more from you. He's talking about you. Dude, what do you want me to do? Actually, like, do you want me to do acts of violence or something? Like, what are you talking about? I go to fucking protests. I fund resistance networks in general. I actively urge my relatively large audience to also partake in this. The fuck are you talking about? I think everybody just wants someone else to do some shit. You know? Everybody's like, not me, someone else. What are you talking about? These are the people who have the power, albeit limited, to actually undermine the administration's agenda. I speak to an auditorium, a stadium full of people every day, like-minded people. Urge them to also organize. What are you talking about?
More right now?
I think he just wants to be relevant.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
thirsty.
The progressive group has gotten so much attention lately. I think he's seeing like all these younger people or people who are new in Congress.
It's so funny. People go, okay, you got to run for office. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? If I ran for office, I couldn't do the most effective thing I do every day. If I did anything else, I would not be able to do the thing that I'm the most effective at.
Get all this attention, like AOC, she's not new, but she's always out there. Jasmine Crockett is new. We're hearing a lot from her. I think he's doing this so that we all cover it on the morning show and he gets some attention.
But can I just bring up one other thing? If you want attention, Lindsey Graham showed you the template. John McCain showed you the template. Joe Manchin showed you the template. You go out and you make news and you say things that are relevant.
Dude, Claudia streams every day. Come on. You're comparing me to the president of Mexico, chatter. What are you talking about? She wasn't a streamer that became the president of Mexico. She became the president of Mexico and is using the pre-existing streaming network that she has surrounding her. What are you talking about? This is not, you have to be Joe. It was a joke. Okay. Oh my God. I can't tell because I feel like people are so stupid. I'm not saying you need to run for office, but you can stream while running for office. You get record numbers. You are wrong. You're just not correct. Oh my God. This is what I mean. People are just like, it's fine, it's on. I'm lazy. Dude, I fucking stream 8 hours a day. I do agitprop 8 hours a fucking day, 7 days a week. Motherfuckers are like, bro, you're straight. You're just lazy. That's why you won't do more. No, you all at the end of the day still believe in a singular person being a leader that is going to change everything magically. I can't even change the politics of the fucking website that I'm one of the largest content creators on. What are we talking about?
And then all the reporters follow you around, Hillary Vaughn and everybody else. They go, okay, we got to get this interview. But just doing a filibuster saying, I really have no agenda. I'm just going to rail against the administration overnight. It's
Right.
like I'm volunteering to do something when no one's watching. So congratulations. I don't know who your PR guy is.
Well-
but just go stay active.
He has been active. He's been going at it for 11 hours and 12 minutes.
Today.
But if he wants to break the record, he's got to go another 13 hours because Strom Thurmond actually broke the record. He holds the record. He filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes back
Remember
in
Nancy Pelosi did it.
1957. Strom Thurmond was railing against the Civil Rights Act.
Remember when Nancy Pelosi did it in those like 4-inch high heels all night?
Right.
That's a workout.
But I will say this, next hour we will play that Strom Thurmond filibuster. We'll play the whole thing top to bottom.
Why is he laughing? Why are you laughing? You think that's funny? Segregationist Strom Thurmond's filibuster? What was he filibustering? Funny, huh? Why is that so funny to you? That's a funny joke? That's crazy. I'm sorry. A black news commentator on Fox News laughing about this douchebag being like, oh yeah, segregationist Strom Thurmond's filibuster is actually the record-breaking filibuster. What was he filibustering? Oh my God, how funny. Oh, that's right. He was doing a filibuster intended to prevent the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Oh, that's funny. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Imagine being that racist, by the way. Imagine being that fucking racist where you were just like, no thanks. Didn't Strom Thurmond also literally have a half black child too, like a secret child? Am I crazy? Yeah. Ezzie Mae Washington Williams was an American teacher and author. She was the eldest child of Strom Thurmond, governor of South Carolina and longtime U.S. senator known for his pro-segregation politics. Of mixed race, she was born to Carrie Butler, a 16-year-old African-American girl who worked as a domestic servant for Thurmond's parents. And Thurmond, then 22 and unmarried. Ezzie Mae grew up in a family of one of her mother's sisters. He did statutory rape on a black woman that worked for his family. Washington Williams did not reveal her father's identity until she was almost 78 years old after Thurmond's death at the age of 100 in 2003. Yup. Hell is not hot enough for demons like this. Yeah, you know who eulogized him, by the way? That guy, this piece of shit. You know who eulogized him at his funeral in 2003? Joe Biden. Joseph Robinette Brandon. That's who. Joe Biden loved this guy. Joe Biden also wrote a lot of the draconian laws that in the 80s, 90s, and onwards destroyed the black community alongside this dipshit. American politics is so messed up. It's so messed up. It's so crazy. And liberals yelled at you for bringing this stuff up where you're like, maybe he's not the best guy.
Good idea.
But haha, very funny. He thinks it's funny.
People would love that.
Do that on your radio show.
Right. Oh, I can't do that. That would be a bad idea.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian.
10 days.
Sexual violence by the state against black women and people have been foundational in this country. This is also true for indigenous people in this country as well. Yes. You just hate me because I'm black? What? Hype train has been started. Okay. Let's listen to Columbia students talking about Trump's attacks on academic freedom. Now, this is interesting to talk about, and I will be talking about it before we get into the new email saga that's going on, by the way. Members of Trump's National Security Council, including National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, has conducted government business over personal Gmail accounts, according to documents reviewed by the Washington Post. Interviews with 3 U.S. officials. We'll obviously talk about that as well. Fantastic stuff, by the way. Fantastic. You fuck with Booker's legendary run or nah? I think it's hype. No, I don't think it's hype. I think it's nothing. That's what I think. We'll see. I mean, I'm not going to discount it. At the end of the day, it's good that they're doing anything, I guess, and I'm glad that people are excited. But if you think it's anything beyond like a performance, if you think it's anything beyond theater, I don't know what to tell you. It's like a filibuster. A filibuster is supposed to be directed towards, a filibuster is a hurdle, okay? It's a procedural hurdle placed upon the passage of a bill, okay? That's what a filibuster is. They're not doing that right now. There's no bill that they're launching a procedural hurdle against. There was an opportunity for them to do that. There was an opportunity for them to do that a couple weeks ago when Chuck Schumer whipped votes to do a cloture, to vote for a cloture so that there was no filibuster opportunity for the continuing resolution that passed that gave Trump the opportunity to legally undermine a lot of the federal funds that were going to key mental health initiatives and the like. That is where they were supposed to filibuster. That was the expectation. That's what I wanted them to do. They didn't do that. And they're simply just like taking up space at this moment. I wish they had done this back then. Then it would have been infinitely more impactful. I would have been super on board. I'm still on board with what they're doing, but make no mistake. This is symbolic. It is not dissimilar to like Nancy Pelosi taking a performative knee wearing the kente cloth in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. It's PR. It's PR in the right direction. It's I guess, good starting point. But I need you to understand that there's a reason why they're doing it now rather than 2 weeks ago when this would have been incredibly effective. You understand?
What is it like on campus?
So to say that campus is charged right now would be kind of an understatement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of division, a lot of chaos. The kind of atmosphere is defined by paranoia, I would say. Everybody is afraid of other students, whether or not they're going to get doxxed, whether or not, ICE is going to show up at their dorm hall, and whether or not the administration is going to be able to stand up for them at the end of the day.
You're involved with campus journalism, right?
Yes, I'm the editor for the Columbia Political Review, which is our largest project in political opinion journalism on campus. We're not a newspaper, but we're just basically a venue for any students. We've got a staff of 220 to share their opinions, to share their commentary. And yeah, that mission's absolutely been threatened by what's going on.
Are people freaking out on staff?
Yeah, absolutely. Literally 10 minutes ago, I got an email from one of our former writers, an alumni, not a current writer.
Oh, wow.
Who wanted to have all of her articles taken offline because she's threatened because she's an international worker now. And that's not new. It's something that people have been trying to do ever since doxing became a problem on campus, removing articles about Gaza. But I've gotten at least 5 of these emails in the past week.
And is it about Gaza or is it just about political dissent generally?
It's definitely about political dissent generally. But the reality is that nobody knows what's on the table because there's been absolutely no transparency in any of the deportation processes or just what demands the Trump administration will be willing to accept capitulation on and restore our funding.
So this is presumably driven by the protests here at Columbia over Gaza. But you're suggesting that the aperture could widen to include anything from trans rights to, DEI. Do you think the university would capitulate on those topics? I mean, do you think that there's a red line for them?
I'm not sure. I think when you're threatening taking...
The answer is no. There is no red line. It's over. There is no red line. They completely caved on academic receivership. What are you talking about? What kind of question is this? Once a college, an independent private institution of higher education, decides to cave to the administration's incredibly unreasonable demands, including but not limited to academic receivership, where they get to choose who the new deans are, okay? Like an outside force that will then control what is being taught at that college campus. You are no longer a real college. This is exactly what they did in Nazi Germany as well. It's over. It's over. It's quite literally thought policing, okay? Ironically enough, the very same people that constantly go, oh, it's 1984, George Orwell, you're trying to do mind control, it's fucking bullshit, blah, blah, blah. All these people that say that when someone goes, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't say the N-word, okay? Those people are literally looking at the government doing that and going, hell yeah, we want more. Or they're probably oblivious to it. That's it. They're doing it at the Smithsonian. They're doing this to Harvard. They're doing this to every college campus right now. Harvard quietly went to the administration when they saw what they were doing to Columbia, what the Trump administration was doing to Columbia, revoking $400 million in grants as a threat to make Colombia concede to their insane demands, which Colombia happily conceded to, mind you. Okay. Harvard went to the administration quietly and said, we will work with the anti-Semitism task force. And in the process, Harvard actually fired one of their tenured professors. Here it is from the American Prospect on March 31st. Today on tap, it's a law school faculty shames the university's general strategy of appeasement. On Saturday, 82 members of Harvard's law school teaching faculty out of 118 sent an open letter to Harvard law students warning of the dire threats to civil liberties and the rule of law. The letter in part said the rule of law is imperiled when the government leaders single out lawyers and law firms in retribution. This is a separate issue as well. This is a separate issue. Trump has also been going after law. Trump has been directly going after law firms as well. And he has gotten a lot of capitulation from the law firms as well. Now, ironically, Harvard talked about how the administration is threatening law firms and legal clinics for their lawyers' pro bono work or prior government service, relent on those arbitrary threats, punish people for lawfully speaking on matters of public concern. Meanwhile, Harvard, as an institution of higher education, turned around and fired a important, I forget what he's a Turkish dude. I forget what his name is right now. Columbia forced Catherine Frank, a tenured professor at the law school, into retirement due to her pro-Palestinian stances. Never mind the fact that she was its most famous professor in legal academics in the United States. Jamal Kafadar is the name. Jamal Kafadar, okay? Harvard dismisses leaders of Centers for Middle Eastern Studies. Jamal Kafadar was dismissed by interim Harvard Dean of Social Science, David M. Cutler. Faculty leaders for the Center for Middle Eastern Studies on Wednesday, according to a faculty member familiar with the situation. The reason why they did this is because they didn't like what he had to say. The CMES director, professor of Turkish studies, Jamal Kafadar, and his associate director, history professor Rosie Bashir, both were forced to leave their posts, according to the faculty member. Global health professor Salman Keshavji, the center's interim director, while Kafadar was on leave, will continue to hold his post. The departure comes after CMES has repeatedly faced public criticism from Harvard affiliates who have alleged that some of the center's programming has been anti-Semitic and has failed to represent Israeli perspectives. These are the nation's top elite institutions. This is where the next crop of society's elites are learning information and will inevitably become people in positions of power. And in that aspect, they're supposed to be bastions of liberalism, bastions of learning the truth about the world, okay? Protecting the liberal attitude. And yet here they are saying even a little bit of criticism of Israel, because it is necessary to understand the truth. Whether you are going to become anti-Israel or pro-Israel after that does not matter. Like, you are learning the truth about Israel. That's too much. The bridge too far. We have to fire these people. This is outside pressure on education. It is insane. And these institutions are completely fucking caving. Amid a mounting pressure campaign by the Trump administration, Harvard's peers have begun shuttering or overhauling programs that the White House says require supervision. At Columbia University, where Trump administration announced $400 million in federal funding cuts, administrators acceded to White House demands to place the school's Middle Eastern Studies programs under closer administrative supervision. They are literally fucking firing deans and professors because those professors are like, yeah, Israel's an apartheid, which is objectively correct. Why? Like, how? How is this appropriate in any way, shape, or form? My Palestinian American friend, as a grad student at Columbia, has had her paper postponed from publication and her discussion series for teachers postponed. Both are on Palestine and education. She has no idea what to do now. Yeah, it is disgusting. It is disgusting to me. It is disgusting to anyone that cares about education, that cares about learning the truth. This is an administration that is actively suppressing the truth. They're disappearing students for saying the right thing about Israel. They're firing professors. This is crazy. July 2024 poll to Academia on Israel Gaza, page 9, Harvard Snap poll. It's additionally damning considering the massive amounts of wealth that these institutions have at their disposal. Okay? Harvard's endowment is $50 billion. What the fuck are you doing with those $50 billion fucking dollars if at this very moment you're not using that to defend your students and to defend the integrity of your academic institution? What good is the $50 billion endowment? You are just a gay hedge fund at that point. And when the administration comes down and says no more DEI, you are no longer a gay hedge fund. You're a homophobic hedge fund now. Yeah, the pressure from Trump was laughable. $400 million is about 2.7% of the endowment Columbia raises every year. They could afford to lose 5 times that money and appeal to donors to back free speech and independence, but no, it suits them to obey. Part of the reason why is because a lot of the big donors there are pro-Israel or have businesses in Israel. They have financial connections to Israel. Jewish or not Jewish, doesn't fucking matter. Okay? That's it. That is part of the reason why they're like totally on board with this. Oh, Israel and Gaza. Do you approve or disapprove of the military action Israel has taken in Gaza? 76.9% of the academics polled on this said they disapprove of the military action Israel has taken on Gaza. Do you support or oppose college selling their investments in companies with ties to Israel, which is boycott, sanctions, and divestment? Almost 10% say strongly support, 11.5% say support, 18.85% say somewhat support, 16% say somewhat oppose, 14% say oppose, 14.6% say strongly oppose, 14.5% say not sure. Do you think students should have a say in what their college's financial endowments are invested in? 41.4% say yes, 41.4% say no. It's a direct 50-50 split. I mean, direct split there, perfect split, with 17% say not sure. Should your college or university boycott all collaborations, e.g. study abroad programs, authorships, visiting scholars, speakers with Israeli universities, and scholars at Israeli universities in response to Israeli military action in Gaza? 86% say no. This was in 2024. Lamau, at least half of those that disapprove of the actions don't support BDS. Liberalism in a nutshell. It's bad, but we shouldn't divest. Exactly. It's bad, but we shouldn't do anything about it. No way to create pressure upon Israel. We don't like what Israel's doing, but we also don't want to do anything about it. Why are your universities investing something? Aren't they supposed to educate, not do banking law? Brother, this is the United States of America. This is the most hyper-capitalist country on the planet. Every institution, every sector is a bank now, okay? Boeing is a bank. Harvard is a bank. Everyone is a fucking bank. No one just makes things anymore. No one provides services anymore. You only make things or provide services until you can turn into a bank. It's a valid question that you're asking, but the unfortunate reality is everything is a fucking bank. That's it. There's an argument that boycotting Israeli academic institutions hurts science. What do you think? Yeah, I don't agree with that. There's an argument that boycotting apartheid South African academics hurts science. They don't have any issues boycotting fucking Russian academics. They didn't have a single issue boycotting Russia across the board. They divested from Russia like that. Why is it that when it's fucking Israel, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can't do that? You know what hurts academia? Bombing every fucking university in Gaza and killing virtually every professor in Gaza. And also, boycotting academics, for the record, is like a total... It's like the maximalist position. Okay? Sure, there's no academic boycott against Israeli academics. Fine. Okay. That is an area where the university and the student protesters can reach a meaningful agreement. The major point here is divestment. Divestment from Israel. Any kind of victory that you get on that front is good. It's moving the needle in the right direction. I will never make good perfect an enemy of good, okay? But these guys are not making any concessions whatsoever, and instead of making any concessions whatsoever, they are directly attacking those who are making very reasonable and moral demands. That's it. That's it. Yeah, Khalfadar was on leave for the 2024-2025 academic year, by the way. Khashoggi, who also is affiliated with the anthropology department, is an Adams House faculty dean, has served the center's interim director in his absence. Apparent firings at Harvard are a notable move from Cutler, an economist who's only expected to hold a social science divisional deanship for one semester while Dean Lawrence D. Bobo is on leave. Cutler announced in an email to some center affiliates, which was obtained by the Crimson, that Kafadar would depart from the CMES directorship at the end of the year. Cutler thanked Kafadar for his work at CMES before asking colleagues to suggest potential candidates for his future leadership by April 16th. It's wild to me that you can be a straight up fucking neo-Nazi professor with a tenure and you will never have your position be called into question. But God forbid you have an accurate analysis of history in Israel as your job demands, as is quite literally your fucking job. That's the expectation. Then, you know, you're done. You're out. It's so fucked up, dude. How do people not see this? How do people not see how fucking insane this is, dude? Yeah, you can be Alan Dershowitz. Harvard still has Alan Dershowitz as a professor emeritus. Like, he is he has permanent tenure, if I'm not mistaken, at Harvard. Alan Dershowitz, constitutional law scholar. Some of his formative work in terms of constitutional law was demanding that we lower the age of consent from a constitutional law argument, of course. From a constitutional framework, we must lower the age of consent. That is a real piece that he wrote, by the way. That's not even a fucking joke. Alan Dershowitz, who very famously defended Jeffrey Epstein, was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. That Alan Dershowitz. Yeah, good friend to Jeffrey Epstein. The Professor Alan M. Dershowitz is a Brooklyn native who's been called the nation's most peripatetic civil liberties lawyer and is one of his most distinguished defenders of individual rights, the best-known criminal lawyer in the world, the top lawyer of last resort, America's most public Jewish defender, and Israel's single most visible defender, the Jewish state's lead attorney in the court of public opinion. Alan Dershowitz, while simultaneously talking about free speech as a constitutional law scholar, has actively worked against free speech. Alan Dershowitz probably loves all of these things that are happening in college campuses right now where, you know, pro-Palestinian students and professors alike are being disappeared or fired from their positions. Alan Dershowitz famously, his famous contributions to the field of free speech and free association in academia especially, was to blacklist Norm Finkelstein, blackball him, and ruin his academic career for the crime of Norm Finkelstein calling out Alan Dershowitz's horrible plagiarized book filled to the brim with faulty information about Israel, and then also destroying him on Democracy Now! That's what Norm did. It was crazy. When institutions are pro-Israel, it's so crazy. For example, FIFA banned Russia for invading Ukraine, banned Pakistan because they don't have fair democratic elections, and haven't banned Israel for their war crimes and for committing genocide. Yes, because Israel is an extension of America. Banning Israel is seen as like banning America from shit. And ain't nobody's moving to do that yet. It's funny, yeah, because Alan Dershowitz not only plagiarized this book defending Israel, but he plagiarized it from another book that also was just incorrect. The information was completely incorrect in the book that he plagiarized. Truly horrifying nonsense. Let's see what the White House had to say about the thing that I covered yesterday, by the way. Speaking of Israel, it came out that Israel had assassinated 15 Red Crescent workers and first responders in Gaza, and then hid those murders in a mass grave, including the ambulances that they struck, that they buried. We found out about this. The New York Times itself reporting on this was such an abdication of duty that I find it to be criminal negligence, by the way. They reported on the matter and said, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, IDF buried the ambulances, chat. Burying the ambulances themselves along with the medics they executed is one of the elements that makes this latest crime so extraordinary and also revealing. A group of IDF soldiers collectively agreed to use a bulldozer to bury the ambulances in the sand with the men they had just killed on the apparent hope that nobody would notice 15 men were missing. Consider how far down the path of dehumanization you have to be to get there. That's what they did. Yes, they buried the ambulances that they blew up, chatters. We watched them do excavation and find the ambulances buried under the sand. Yes, the entire ambulances that they blew up, they buried those ambulances alongside the first responders they killed, that they assassinated. I need you to understand something. Red Crescent engages in deconfliction, which means that every move that Red Crescent takes in the Gaza Strip is done with the knowledge of Israel. They don't go anywhere without informing the Israeli authorities when they're in the Gaza Strip, which means that the Israeli authorities knew exactly where these ambulances were going and still assassinated them, just like they did to the World Central Kitchen aid workers, as a matter of fact. Most moral army on the planet. Mohammed Al-Safin says the UN filmed a video at the site showing the bodies of the medics in their uniforms being dug out of a grave under their crushed ambulances, Radio Rwanda-ass newspaper. The reason why Mohammed is saying this is because, speaking of burying, the New York Times buried the fucking lead on the only coverage that they did at the time, yesterday, on the Gaza medics. Here's how they reported on it. And this is also like further down in the article in and of itself. On Sunday, the Palestine Red Crescent Society said it recovered the bodies of 8 emergency medical technicians, 5 civil defense personnel, and a United Nations employee in Rafah in southern Gaza. The medical organization said it had lost contact with 9 of its crew members more than a week ago after they were directly fired upon by Israeli forces. The Israeli military said in a statement late Sunday that its forces had opened fire on March 23rd at several vehicles that had been advancing suspiciously towards the troops without headlights or emergency signals and without prior coordination. The military added that an initial assessment had determined that the forces had eliminated a Hamas operative and 8 other terrorists without explaining any connection to the emergency and rescue crew members who were killed. The Times could not independently verify the claims of either side. They wrote the Israeli claims, okay? They wrote the Israeli claims, and they did not write the claims of the Red Crescent. Now, or the UN, mind you. Now, what's interesting about this is that this is the New York Times. It is the paper of record. Do you think that the New York Times does not have the phone number of the Palestinian Red Crescent Society or the United Nations? Do you think that the New York Times simply could not find this information? You think they couldn't just call up a journalist at the New York Times? They have like 4,000 of them. Not a single one of them could call up the United Nations or the Palestine Red Crescent Society? Red Cross in Palestine or in the Muslim world is called Red Crescent. Okay, just so you understand, that's what it is. They just could not dial them up. They could not independently verify these claims. They could not look at the video footage of the excavated ambulances. Insane. This is not incompetence. This is not negligence. This is actively omitting key information from your coverage in an effort to shelter the public from the truth. The New York Times has moved beyond being stenographers of the State Department to be stenographers for the Israeli occupying force. They do this in a way where even Israeli outlets don't do this. Like Haaretz is more critical of Israel's war crimes than the fucking New York Times is. It's insane. If there was any sort of real justice, some of these journalists would be tried in the same way that the press were tried at the Nuremberg trials. Straight up. This is fascist collaboration to the highest degree. This is crazy. It is mind-boggling to me that they've just kept doing this, that they just refuse to do their job at a time when journalism is the most necessary. Good journalism is an absolute necessity. They're doing everything they can to shelter the public from the truth. The truth that Israel is doing a genocide, and the truth that Israel will stop at nothing to complete its exterminationist policies in the Gaza Strip, and then also in the West Bank. Oh my God. It's horrifying, man. It is truly, truly horrifying shit. Here's how the White House responded to the reported killing of rescue workers in Gaza.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah.
In Gaza, the bodies of 15 rescuers have been found in their sort of ambulances where they were apparently killed by Israeli forces. Just wondering if the White House is going to be calling on Israel to investigate that and to try and avoid similar casualties involving rescue workers in future.
Well, as for the specific situation you just mentioned, I'll talk to the president about it and our national security team. What I can tell you is what I've spoken with the president on. He very much remains committed to backing Israel, and it was only because of this president and his team's leadership that we had a temporary ceasefire in Gaza, that we were able to bring many hostages home. And the president made it very clear to Hamas, you get the hostages out, all of them, or there will be hell.
You didn't answer the question at all.
President Trump's
Anyway. This is why I don't hate the tariffs as much, where I'm like, we do deserve punishment. You know what I mean? As a society, we deserve it a little bit, okay? We do deserve Donald Trump a little bit. You know who doesn't deserve the pain that Donald Trump brings on them, though? The Palestinians. They don't deserve it. They're getting it anyway. Israel eliminates all tariffs on U.S. goods. Things are getting worse and worse at an alarming rate all around the world, dude. It is crazy. Here's the State Department spokesperson on the Israeli military summarily executing one by one 15 aid workers from the Red Crescent, UN, and local first responders in Gaza. By the way, I want to repeat something that I hope people are aware of, but this answer to this question is identical to the State Department procedures when Biden was in charge. Make no mistake.
The UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office has said that 15 paramedics, civil defense, and a UN worker were killed, in their words, one by one by the IDF. They have dug bodies up, they said, in the shallow grave that have been gathered up, and also vehicles in the sand. Have you got any assessment of what might have happened, and given the potential use of American weapons, is there any assessment of whether or not this complied with international law?
Well, I can tell you that for too long, Hamas has abused civilian infrastructure, cynically using it to shield themselves. Hamas's actions have caused humanitarians to be caught in the crossfire.
This is no different than Matt Miller, Kirby, Anthony Blinken, or even all the way down to like the lowest level of doing Hasbara, someone like Ethan Klein saying Hamas is putting command and control centers under Israeli hospitals. It is a way to justify Israel's actions against the healthcare infrastructure of Gaza. Okay? Anyone that even remotely entertains this nonsensical fucking bullshit, anyone that entertains this bullshit is doing propaganda for Israel. Whether they recognize it or not, it does not matter. Okay?
The use of civilians or civilian objects to shield or impede military operations is itself a violation of international humanitarian law. And of course, we expect all parties on the ground to comply with international humanitarian law.
But this is specifically a question on it's a question about accounting and accountability, given it may have been the use of US weapons. So it's a question about the State Department rather than Hamas. Is there any action to assess?
Every single thing that is happening in Gaza is happening because of Hamas. Every single dynamic. I'll say again, I've said it, I think, in every briefing.
Yeah. Here's Matt Miller under the glorious Brandon liberal regime saying the exact same thing. Ericott persisted with his line of questioning. Why is it so difficult for this government to say we condemn the killing of children, Palestinian women and children, he asked. That earned him a reproach from Miller. Whenever you ask me these kinds of questions, I do think you continue to kind of just elide over the fact that Hamas bears a great deal of responsibility for putting those children in harm's way, the State Department spokesman said. Remember, it was Hamas that launched this war in the first place with an attack on Israel that killed men, women, and children, and that Hamas that hid and continues to hide behind children as human shields, Miller added. In order to construct a narrative such as this one, you have to avoid so many glaringly obvious fucking truths, which is that Israel's not doing a genocide, even though it is, right? Which is that Israel just has no other option but to bomb the children, even though it is a fucking war crime to bomb hospitals. It's insane. Here's the Israeli ambassador and Biden advisor clashing over Gaza war legacy. Israeli ambassador Yechiel Leiter had a tense exchange with Brett McGurk. You might remember him, former President Biden's top Middle East advisor, after Leiter condemned the Biden administration's Gaza policy in a closed-door briefing at the Atlantic Council last week, according to 4 American and Israeli sources who attended the meeting. Brett McGurk said, "What the fuck are you talking about? We let you do a genocide, and you're still shitting on us." Do you understand? The sources noted that Leiter even claimed all the Biden administration wanted to discuss with Israel was a number of aid trucks entering Gaza. McGurk was in the audience, and he asked the opportunity to comment after Leiter ended his presentation. I want to make sure the ambassador knows all the details about what the Biden admin did for Israel since October 7, McGurk told Leiter, according to sources who were in the room. McGurk then detailed many steps Biden took, like traveling to Israel, sending aircraft carriers to the Middle East to deter Hezbollah and Iran, giving $13 billion in military assistance, using emergency procedures to ensure the delivery of weapons, helping defeat 2 Iranian missile attacks, and blocking anti-Israeli measures in the UN. Look how honest Brett McGurk is. Remember that. Brett McGurk is speaking for the Biden administration here, and all of the wonderful actions the Biden administration took. After McGurk's pushback, Leiter said he stands corrected, but thanked McGurk personally, but not the Biden administration as a whole, the sources said. Here he is, brutally honest about all the things that they did for Israel. So remember that whenever fucking dumb fucks in the chat go, oh, the Biden administration wouldn't do this. Like, what are you talking about? They did do this. They did it. They did it, and they were so horny to continue doing it that they lost the election to a fucking fascist. What do you mean? And this is just the sum of the many things that they did, by the way. This is just like the tip of the iceberg, I guess. So remember that whenever someone tries to tell you, like, oh, it's totally different. It's totally different. Anyway. Now let's get to the freaking tariffs. It's Trump tariff time.
Tariffs. The president's set to impose new sales taxes on imports, and Wall Street is bracing for the impact. We're going to have the latest from Wall Street first. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Georgia. President Trump is poised to upend the global economy with these unprecedented tariffs coming tomorrow, but the details still remain unclear, creating even more anxiety for the markets and American consumers. This morning, President Trump is touting his upcoming blitz of tariffs against American trading partners.
They're reciprocal, so whatever
No,
they
I'm not going
charge
to finish
us,
the college
we charge
student video.
them,
I don't
we're being
care.
nicer than they were.
But it's still unclear how big these tariffs will be or which countries will be targeted. Has the president decided on the scale and scope of these tariffs?
It's time for reciprocity, and it's time for a president to take historic change to do what's right for the American people.
The president is adamant his tariffs will encourage manufacturing in the U.S. and ultimately boost the economy. But experts caution it could take years to bring industries back to American soil. And in the meantime, American consumers will likely pay the price. Economists warning tariffs are just taxes on imported products paid for by American businesses. Those costs passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. In just days, prices could skyrocket on everything from groceries and clothing to electronics and cars. By one estimate, the cost of a new car could go up by more than $8,000 when tariffs on foreign-made vehicles kick in later this week, sending some consumers scrambling. In Ferndale, Michigan, Karen Petke had planned to buy a new Subaru in June. Instead, she rushed to the dealership.
I didn't want to take a chance that this car could go up thousands of dollars.
Small businesses are also bracing for the impact of Trump's trade war.
The chaotic nature of how these tariffs are rolled out and how it changes every single day. How am I supposed to plan for that? I can't plan for that.
In Buffalo, New York, Dave Sheffield sells custom sports products, many imported from Canada. Now with tariffs in place and potentially more to come, he says he could lose thousands of dollars.
We're having to either take that hit on our bottom line and just at the end of the year, I make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 less for my family, or we have to pass it on to our customers, which when customers see a higher price, then sales typically go down. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
And a new poll from the Associated Press shows Americans aren't sold on the president's trade policies, 60% disapproving with 38% approving. And on his handling of the economy overall, 58% disapproving with 40% approving. Robin.
All right, Mary, our thanks to you.
Europe did not start this confrontation.
Hey all, Peter Zion here, coming to you from a bright and sunny
What is this? This helped you understand the tariffs? There's a little on the high end. Goldman estimating 10-15% increase in new car prices after dealerships eat through the current inventory. Additionally, 60% of raw materials are imported to the U.S. to make cars is so fucked.
We think it is wrong, but my message to you today is that we have everything we need to protect our people and our prosperity. We have the largest single market in the world. We have the strength to negotiate. We have the power to push back. And the people of Europe should know that together we will always promote and defend our interests and our values, and together we will always stand up for our Europe. Tariffs will just fuel inflation, exactly the opposite of what we wanted to achieve. We are open to negotiations. We will approach these negotiations from a position of strength. Europe holds a lot of cards, from trade to technology to the size of our market. But this strength is also built on our readiness to take firm countermeasures if necessary. All instruments are on the table. Our immediate response to tariffs is unity and determination. Our objective is a negotiated solution. But of course, if need be, we will protect our interests, our people and our companies. Europe has not started this confrontation. We do not necessarily want to retaliate. But if it is necessary, we have a strong plan to retaliate and we will use it.
Donald Trump's blueprint for America looks something like this. Big industry, power and might. Made in America, made by Americans.
How many people work here? It's 1,100 and some.
We're inside a metal plant in rural West Virginia. It is one of the largest.
I think one of the ironic aspects of like American domestic manufacturing also taking somewhat of a hit is that like my merch is made in the United States. I'm proud of it. Okay. And it's made in facilities that have unionized workers. Okay. It's labor union made. It's American made. Having said that, the raw materials necessary for the garments, I suspect, at least some of them, are probably not sourced from the United States of America to make the garments, right? So even in that process, I suspect that the price of the actual T-shirt, like the blanks that are still produced in the United States of America in union facilities, are most likely going to go up. So even if someone is working with American-made manufacturing, even if someone is making American-made manufacturing, you better take the hit. That's so funny that you're saying that. Brother, I don't know how to describe this to you, but people that have tried to... people that have tried to look at the will you absorb the cost? One, yes, of course, but I don't think you understand that like there's a reason why people that make their shit in China sell their t-shirts for a higher price point than I do in the United States of America with union-made manufacturing. I'm already eating the cost. It's fine, and I don't have an issue with it, but just know that there is, there might not be more cost to eat. I basically already sell it at cost. Just understand, there's a reason why the shirts that I sell at ideology.shop, Union Made, American Made, there's a reason why it's cheaper than every other merchandise that you see from other streamers that are making their merchandise overseas. It's because of the fact that I have eaten the cost in terms of the profit margins. Okay? And I will continue to do so. I saw a few Twitter Andy saying the shirts are not union made because they're cheap. I know. That's what's so funny about it, is because the expectation from people is that it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible for someone to make shirts and sell it at $35 fucking dollars if those shirts are made in the US and with union manufacturing. They consider it to be fucking unbelievable. And the only reason why they consider that is because they think, well, where's the profit then? There's no profit here. This doesn't make any sense. That's it. Also, Elon Musk is on the 5.
Massive amounts of money off of the federal government, like Nancy Pelosi. Please.
Yes. So we've encountered, there's really so much for it. It's deciding.
$35 is cheap, huh? Wait, what? Yeah. For fucking, yeah. For have you bought merchandise from any other goddamn streamer? What are you talking about? The fuck? Yeah, in comparison to a product made in Indonesia at PacSun, yes.
In that regard as well, because these are fake charities where mostly Democrats. Almost, well, I don't want to be clear. There's sometimes a little bit of Republican in there because they sometimes throw the Republicans a bone to say, "Hey, be quiet about this." So that's where you start getting the uniparty thing going on. But it is overwhelmingly to Democrats, and they give give billions of dollars to NGOs run by Democrats that then go through a whole network of additional. It's a giant money laundering scheme. Really, at this point, I think the word NGO and money laundering are almost synonymous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Makes sense to me. Kennedy?
Hello, Judge. And hello, Elon. Welcome to the Five. Great to talk to you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the anti-Tesla violence. Your car company was...
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was a leftist dream come true. It was technologically advanced. It was the word of mouth was better than any car company, arguably, on the market. And now the left is trying to make it a pariah by tying their anti-Elon politics to violence. How do you talk the unhinged off the ledge, and how do you counter that violence that you're seeing at Tesla dealerships?
Yes, it is remarkable that there is so much violence. People have burnt cars, they've fired bullets into dealerships, they've scratched swastikas into Teslas of the innocent people that they're just going about their lives. They've done nothing wrong. And Tesla's done nothing wrong as a company. And so I find it ironic and incredibly hypocritical.
Clapped.
20 years simply for watching the things at January 6th, but not actually doing any violence. You don't hear a single word from them about the actual violence happening against Tesla. What incredible hypocrites they are. It's outrageous. I mean, really, this is fundamentally a case of terrorism. It's wide-scale domestic terrorism with the purpose of intimidation, and it's
vandalizing your ugly ass car. Look at these terrorists, dude.
What we actually have to get to are the people who are organizing and paying for these attacks and protests. That's who we really need to go after, because the people who are actually throwing the Molotov cocktails, they are the foot soldiers. Right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so. The president has made it very clear that we're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise, which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Jessica,
these
give
are
him hell,
serious
Jessica.
crimes and pushes of mass violence. Will go to prison for a very long time.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Well, we'll play it again. Jessica.
Okay, well, liberal Tesla lover here. My sister has two in her family, so have not thrown any Molotov cocktails recently. But I wanted to talk to you about what DOJ has been doing. So you've been making cuts to a lot of the agencies that have open investigations and regulatory battles with your companies. At the same time, you continue to get billions in government contracts. Tesla gets billions in subsidies. How do you explain that to the American people?
Well, everything that DOJ does is an open book. So I think the most transparent action, the most transparent organization in government ever. Every single DOJ action is listed on the DOJ.gov website. It's also listed on the X handle. So if anyone has a concern about any one of those actions, they can bring that up, they can raise that. And I do want to say, like, sometimes we make a mistake. Nobody bats 1,000. We will at times make a mistake, and we'll act very quickly to correct it. I am under such an extreme spotlight, so much scrutiny, that it's literally impossible for me to get away with anything nefarious. And obviously, nor do I wish to. So this is a case where we have radical transparency. We're actually willing to admit that we do make mistakes. Often people are not willing to admit they make mistakes, but we are. But we want to emphasize we fix them quickly, and we're trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer, for the American people. And I think history will be the judge that what we've done here and what we're doing is a very good thing for the strength and future of America.
Okay.
That
So,
was
Elon, for
that is a
one
vague
last time, why
question,
don't you
dude.
remind the viewers
They
why
100% were like, Jessica, don't fuck up the bag here. We got our glorious king. Our glorious king.
Absolutely. So the reason that, because it does seem like, why isn't this rather a small thing? And it's happening, ironically, of course, on April Fool's Day. This is not an April Fool's joke. This is very real. So a judge race election in Wisconsin will decide whether or not the Democrats can gerrymander Wisconsin in order to remove 2 House seats from Republican to Democrat. Because of the razor-thin margins in the House, that would mean potentially a flip of the House from Republican to Democrat. That means at the next election, roughly less than 2 years from now, the House will then immediately take action to stop the president's agenda. And it's always worth reminding people that the president was elected with a majority of the people of America, a meaningful majority of the popular vote. So all the president is trying to do is implement the will of the people. And they're trying to stop the will of the people through judicial trickery. And in fact, in general, there is a huge problem with activists that are actually politicians in judges' robes. And that needs to stop. It's undermining the integrity, the reality, and the perception.
They're like, we want our activist judges in every court. That's it. That's what they want.
Ashamed of themselves. They're just pretending to be judges.
Yeah. Big money is interfering in the political affairs of this country, which is why the representation, the physical manifestation of big money interfering in politics, am interfering in politics with the big money that I have in order to put my activist judge in a position of power. Incredible stuff.
All right. Elon Musk, thank you so much for being with us on The Five. Thank you.
Right.
And
thanks for having me.
You're
Thank you very much.
welcome. All right. And there's so much more to come on our exclusive interview as radical liberals take courses on how to resist President Trump.
Oh, I hate this LARP so much. Anyway, let's get back to how U.S. companies are reacting to Trump's
Facilities
tariffs.
of its kind in the world. Aluminium.
They literally think he is a god. It is crazy.
Aluminum, they call it here.
There's a lot of power, there's a lot of force coming down on that slab.
Heated, molded.
It's like pastry. They're just like...
It's exactly, same principle.
Transformed from massive blocks into coils and sheets. It rolls through here to customers far and wide.
So space, aerospace, transportation, general engineering products, military products.
Well, you do get a real sense here of the president's vision. American manufacturing, American jobs, and American product. But expanding all this, that is a true challenge.
Because the competition here is cheaper aluminium from overseas. From China mostly. It is a familiar story. And it's what's behind Donald Trump's core tariff plans.
We believe in free and fair trade. And the point is that trade has been free but not fair in aluminum.
The boss of the multinational firm that runs this plant says tariffs are blunt but necessary.
There's been massive growth in the capacity installed in China, but a lot of that has been allowed by illegal subsidies. So what it means is that overall, trade of aluminum products is broken as an international system. It is clear that not all countries, not all products are unfairly traded. But there is a history of Chinese production making its way through third countries into the US. So a blunt approach was required.
Blunt for sure. Blanket tariffs are causing huge angst precisely because resets create uncertainty. Short term, pain. Gain only maybe down the line.
And what about people at the other end of the supply chain that you're at the sort of top end of, the small businesses? That's going to hit them hard. How can you at the other end of this process reassure them?
I'm not going to say that an increase in cost is a good thing for a customer, but I think it's important to look at things and put them in proportion.
Proportion is not a luxury all can afford. In the northeast of Washington, D.C., just 4 miles from the frenetic policy decisions at the White House, the Wright Proper Brewery is a dream realized for Thor Cheston, a small business owner with a thriving company.
These are our grain silos.
And the grain is from where?
Canada.
Thor relies on the international supply chain, the cans Aluminium from Canada too. The malt is from Germany and Britain.
We are always looking for the best quality ingredients, no matter where it comes from.
It is a complex global web of manufacturing to make American beer, and margins are tight.
A small increase in the aluminum price would have a massive impact for you.
We don't have the luxury of just raising our prices. You know, we're in a competitive landscape.
You could face some real increase in costs if they start tariffing from Germany, from UK, Canada. It could have a really, existential impact on you.
Yes, absolutely. And so, we've dealt with major problems like this before.
There are some products that once tariffs hit, people may just adapt to buying less of that item, so there would be permanent deflation in demand. Yeah, but that would also mean layoffs, job cuts. What is it? Hassan, do you attribute your success to your rich parents? Yes. They're no longer rich. I'm the rich one. I take care of them, but yes, many times over, as a matter of fact. I've talked about this quite a bit. Are you happy with the answer that you got? Oh, nope. Still spamming it. Got it. Okay. He admitted. We've
had to pivot a lot. We have survived the global pandemic. We've done
dunking on your parents' law. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm proud of all the things that they did. I'm proud that I can take care of them now. It's fucking amazing. I'm an endlessly fortunate individual who comes from a loving family who now has the capability of taking care of my loving family. What is the problem? So which influencers have been pushing the rich parents accusation? I mean, it's not even an accusation. Like, it's not even a fucking secret. I mean, people lie about my father's wealth. They say he's, I think, the third richest person in Turkey or something. It's very funny. There's like a bunch of AI articles that were written about it at the time. They say he has $5 billion, which is very funny. That's not the case. 36K viewers and I'm living in your head rent free? Wait, what? I don't think you understand what rent free is. Chatter, I don't think you understood. I treated you like a human being and not the bot that you are. I will forget about this interaction as soon as I'm done, as soon as I'm done responding to you. You should be endlessly grateful that I took you as a human being with a question and responded to it. And then your immediate reaction was, I'm rent-free in your head. That's not what rent-free is. That's not how that works. I hope you get better, Chatter. Oh, my new Vox.com article / podcast hit came out.
Done it before, we just need a break.
I guess the government's argument is buy American, but it's not as simple as that.
It's not as simple as that.
Back in West Virginia, right next to the aluminium plant, a reminder of what once was and what Trump says could be again.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, this person got timed out by Fossabot for spamming. They got auto time. What? Fuck Turkish invaders, long live Cyprus. Are you okay, Chatter? I don't think you are, but anyway. Here, I untimed you out, even though you got botted.
Being squashed and squeezed in that plant down there is sourced from abroad these days. And so the ultimate ambition is to reopen smelters like this, to make the aluminium here in America, make the whole process American. But that requires massive investment and a constant supply of reliable energy to keep the smelters going 24 hours a day.
From the factory, the Ohio River still carries what's left of America's heavy industry.
Living in West Virginia, we're big on coal.
Through towns like Parkersburg, not the thriving place it used to be.
We used to have a really nice aluminum plant right down the river here, and it shut down.
Here, you can see why so many rolled the dice for Donald Trump.
Obama, he shut down mines and ruined a lot of people's lives.
I think it'll bring jobs back. Definitely bring jobs back to the U.S. He's putting the tariffs on the other countries, bringing their things in, and then that way, it equals out.
I know that it's probably going to end up jacking up prices here in the U.S. I am a registered Republican, but I don't support the man in any way, shape, or form.
I'm for.
Americans only care about their pocket, dude. You can't fuck their bags up.
Republican, but I'm not exactly aligned with Donald Trump.
The Trump tariff blueprint is full of jeopardy. If it fails, it will be here, places like this again. that will be hit hardest.
No politician with millions or billions of dollars cares about me or you. Nobody.
Mark Stone, Sky News in West Virginia.
A major CNN investigation and
Corporate interests pay for luxury trips. State attorneys general join for free. I don't care about this. So we are going to talk about the deportations. One of the stories that has actually penetrated public consciousness a little bit is a man of Salvadoran descent who actually in 2011 got legal status from the United States of America, like permanent protection from the United States of America, because he had escaped El Salvador due to gang violence. Okay. Now, that person has been disappeared alongside the many others that were deported. And we're going to be talking about this because J.D. Vance actually replied to Jon Favreau. My moots are fighting on Twitter on this issue. And he responded in the stupidest ways possible. Right-wing commentaries like a blanket they comfort themselves with. Hassan Piker, your interview with NPR is being re-aired. J.D. Vance is not my moot, but Jon Favreau is. My moot is fighting with the vice president, which I find to be odd. Because why is the vice president getting into Twitter beefs? But also, I guess I'm not too upset about it because, you know, more of this, please. We'll cover all of that in a second. But yeah, this is it. ICE admits to an administrative error after Maryland man is sent to El Salvador prison. A Maryland man with protected legal status was sent to the notorious prison in El Salvador following an administrative error. A U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement official admitted in a sworn declaration on Monday. Let's take a look.
I trust our intelligence agencies and the intelligence individuals that are within the Department of Homeland Security, that the individuals who are there are members and a part of this.
I guess it's not that crazy that the vice president is getting into Twitter beefs, considering that the real president, Elon Musk, was getting into Twitter beefs with me a couple days ago. So
This organization and have worked with them. And while we were there at that prison, we not only talked about how to identify these members of these terrorist organizations, but what they did, their actions they took, the case files we built on them, and how we verified that those individuals should be there in that prison. I'm very confident in the fact that those individuals that are there should be there, and that by belonging to these organizations, they were choosing to be on the side that wanted to destroy the United States of America.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem expressing confidence that her agency is only removing criminals from the U.S. On Sunday night, 17 additional men were deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. According to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the U.S. military only transported violent criminals, including murderers and rapists with gang affiliations. El Salvador's president posted another video yesterday showing the men in restraints as they were let off a U.S. Air Force plane. According to a senior State Department official, 7 of the men are Venezuelan citizens, while the other 10 are citizens of El Salvador. Meanwhile, the Trump administration acknowledged in a court filing yesterday it inadvertently deported a Maryland man to El Salvador because of an administrative error, but that U.S. courts are...
Now, he's not the only person that has been deported, even though he's not the only person that has been deported that did not deserve this deportation. He's just the only person that ICE has taken responsibility over so far, even though ICE has taken responsibility and then doubled down and said, sorry, nothing we can do about it. No way to bring him back. Now, what is completely psychotic about every part of this process is, ironically enough, if these deportations that are being done without due process were conducted with due process, that person would not be trapped in a slave labor prison in El Salvador right now. That's kind of the whole point of my argument that I have been talking about nonstop. And I don't think people understand how devastating this is. No amount of Cory Booker filibustering is going to change this reality. The Democrats need to take stronger action than this. This is changing the very fabric of American society, okay? This is the most pressing issue with this administration. I need you to understand this. It is more important than the tariffs. It is more important than Doge layoffs. It's more important than fucking Elon Musk being annoying. This is the number one issue. And I'm not saying that because I have a soft spot in my heart for migrants or whatever. Okay? Because this is not even just about immigrants. This is about voting, an incredibly important part of the judicial structure in this country. This is the number one issue with this administration, if I were to rank them. And before people go, oh, is it more important than Gaza? Ironically enough, it touches on the situation in Gaza as well. When due process is eroded, nothing else matters. Do you understand? Nothing matters. They can just kidnap you and put you through the system without any sort of recognition or any care or consideration because you have no defense. Anyone and everyone will be harmed by this. Like this dumb fuck who says, who cares if they kidnap a terrorist? This story is quite literally ICE saying this guy wasn't a terrorist. This guy was a legal resident in the United States of America. Oopsie, we fucking kidnapped him and shipped him off. But that's not the point. That's not even the point. The point is you will be considered a terrorist tomorrow and you will have no defense. Yeah, I want to watch this video because I saw this. I saw this and it just like broke my brain.
Powerless to order his return. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a Salvadorian national who came to the U.S. at the age of 16 in 2011 after fleeing gang threats in his native land. According to Politico, he was deemed by an immigration judge in 2019 to be a likely member of the MS-13 gang, a decision he sharply contested and that the government credited to information.
Yeah, except guess what? That was a claim made by another prisoner, okay? And guess what? The judge found that the claim was erroneous. It was made up. As in, he was able to contest successfully a false claim that was made against him in a court of law when there was fucking due process.
Gleaned from a confidential informant. But the court also agreed at the time that he should not be deported to El Salvador, finding that his fear of being persecuted or tortured was credible. On Monday, attorneys for the government admitted that Abrego Garcia was deported accidentally. Although ICE was aware of his protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error. Trump lawyers said
For those of you who at this point still don't know what due process is, I'm going to tell you. Okay? The principle of the due process guided the framers of the U.S. Constitution. The Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, for example, prohibit federal and state governments from depriving people of their life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. As in, if your freedom is going to be taken away from you, and it's understandable in certain instances, obviously, if you're like a fucking violent criminal or whatever, innocent until proven guilty matters. You must be able, you must be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt in a court of law. As in, there has to be an investigation. Your side will defend the claims being made by the prosecution. A jury will judge you. A judge will adjudicate so that this doesn't happen. Do you understand? Here is directly from the Cornell Law School Legal Information Institute. The Constitution states only one command twice. The Fifth Amendment says to the federal government that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, uses the same 11 words called due process clause to describe a legal obligation of all states. These words have as their central promise an assurance that all levels of American government must operate within the law, legality, and provide fair procedures. Most of this article concerns that promise. We should briefly know, however, 3 other uses of that word have had in American constitutional law. The Fifth Amendment's reference to due process is only one of many promises of protection the Bill of Rights gives citizens against the federal government. Okay, it's there to protect you from the government, from government overreach. That's what the Constitution does. Originally, these promises had no application at all against the states. The Bill of Rights was interpreted to only apply as against the federal government, given the debate surrounding its enactment, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But substantive due process. The words due process suggest a concern with procedure rather than substance. And that is how many, such as Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote the 14th Amendment's due process clause is not a secret repository of substance, are guarantees. Okay, this is like boring legal interpretations coming from Supreme Court justices. But basically, the clause reflects the Magna Carta of Great Britain, King John's 13th century promise to his noblemen that he would act only in accordance with the law and that all would receive the ordinary procedures of law. It also echoes Great Britain's 17th century struggles for political and legal regularity. It is at the heart of what like Western liberal democracies have maintained. Okay, it's like other countries and other cultures have had similar versions of this as well, but it's like long-standing precedent. It is one of the most significant aspects. That's why when you watch like historical fiction or whatever, and those guys are wearing the wigs, even all the way back in the fucking 13th century, there is some kind of legal work being conducted because every man has a right to a fair trial. Because without that, you can just go up to a random person and say, I'm a member of the law enforcement. I'm a member of law. I am a law enforcement officer, and I have declared you to be engaging in illegal acts. I do not have to prove any of those things. I can simply claim you did so, and you have no recourse. I am now kidnapping you. I am putting you in jail, and I am deporting you. In that process, you have no way of going, no, I'm an American citizen. No, I am innocent. Nothing. That's what that fucking means. It's insane. And that's precisely what's going on. And it's shocking to me that Americans can't recognize this and think, as a matter of fact, that non-citizens shouldn't get this procedure. It is quite literally what happened in the witch trials. Due process at the heart of innocent until proven guilty. You have to be able to prove your innocence. If you can't, then everyone is guilty. I can't believe I'm describing the most basic concept. Because guess what? If due process does not exist in this country, and currently as it stands, the Trump administration is actively eroding this constitutionally protected right that everyone has. If due process is eroded, then all of us are non-citizens. You understand? Every single person in this chat, no matter how fucking white or rich you are no longer a citizen. You are a terrorist. It is entirely up to the person that brands you as a terrorist. If you think it won't harm you, you are wrong. Giving this unimaginable amount of power to a bunch of fucking psychos is insane. Conservatives know this, but they think constitutional rights are only reserved for citizens and non-citizens are exempted. It doesn't matter because you can't prove your citizenship if due process doesn't exist. That is my point. There is no citizen and non-citizen if there is no due process. Your citizenship is now entirely in the hands of the person who's apprehending you. That's how this works. Yes, of course, that includes me. That includes every single person on U.S. soil right now, citizen or non-citizen, tourist alike. Jewish last name hack? What? No, that's not a hack, chatter. You will not be spared. The fuck? That chatter wasn't, he wasn't being anti-Semitic. That chatter is most likely Jewish themselves. He's just a 49-month subscriber. Yeah, he said, I'm Jewish. Come on. A 49-month subscriber isn't going to fucking magically be anti-Semitic out of nowhere like that. By the way, this just also this is breaking news, but Judge rules that Mahmoud Khalil's habeas case should go forward in New Jersey because that's where he was when the petition was filed. They poured over 67 pages of analysis on the issue. This is a part of that structure. This is a part of the due process, ironically enough. The very fact that he's still in the custody of the state is insane to me. It is a real crime in and of itself. The Trump administration wanted to move it expeditiously to Louisiana, but they failed. As of this moment, the case will proceed in New Jersey, where the activist judges will most likely take a fairer approach to the matter because they're not the actual activist fucking judges in Louisiana. Are you going to cover Senator Booker making history right now on the Senate floor? I am going to make history by Brian Kilmeeing on a live stream. I feel like you should be boosting his speech right now. No, man, I don't care about fucking Lin-Manuel Miranda ass speeches on the fucking Senate floor while I'm talking about constitutional rights being shredded, okay? Shut the fuck up. He's making history, he says. I covered it this morning. If you want to see my reaction to it, I'm sure one of the Hasanabi fan accounts have already probably posted it. Ay, ay, ay. Libs literally don't fucking care about this at all. It's insane. I know. Let's continue.
Court has no ability to bring him back now that he is in Salvadorian custody. The man's attorney is asking the court to order the Trump administration.
My filthy leftist crafting group is praising Cory Booker and yelling at everyone who says it's performative. These hacks ain't leftists. I mean, you should ask them what he's filibustering. Like what Senate procedure are they limiting with this action? Because that's what filibuster is supposed to be. A filibuster is not supposed to just be about like talking.
Ask for his return and, if necessary, to withhold payment to the Salvadorian government, which says it's charging the United States $6 million a year to jail U.S. deportees. Trump administration attorneys told the court to dismiss the request on multiple grounds, including that Trump's primacy in foreign affairs outweighs the interests of the man and his family, and also noted that he was not likely to be tortured or killed in El Salvador. According to his attorney, Abrego Garcia has no criminal record, is married to a U.S. citizen, and has a 5-year-old disabled child who is also a U.S. citizen.
So John, you're covering the story, and of course, the judge in 2019, during President Trump's first term, said that if he went back to El Salvador, he was likely to be tortured, right?
Yes.
So he's in El Salvador right now, and they're admitting that they made a mistake. President has a very close relationship with the El Salvador government, Salvadorian government. Can't they just say, we made a mistake? We need...
please return this man.
Please return this man, and we'll process him correctly.
President Trump just yesterday took to Truth Social to praise the president of El Salvador, thank him for his help in his immigration policies. This is the first time the administration has admitted a mistake. This is not the first time that others have said there's been a case of mistaken identity. We've heard from other family members, other immigration activists who say, look, you've swept up some of the wrong people and deported them to this prison in El Salvador, which is known as a hell prison. And this, though, the Trump administration is saying, yes, we shouldn't have deported them there, but are claiming, and again, let's make clear, claiming that they have no ability to get him back. Now that's the crux of it now. The families, this man's attorneys are pushing to say that's ridiculous. Of course you can withhold payment. Reverend Sharpton, this is something where this man needs to be returned. He's committed no crime here in the United States. He has no criminal record. Police at the time, when he was first rounded up, they said they had no evidence he was a gang member, though an immigration judge said deemed it, quote, likely because of information they got later from a confidential informant. But the fact of the matter is, this is someone who has not committed a crime here in the United States other than being here illegally. And in defiance of court recommendations, the Trump administration put him to El Salvador and claims they just can't get him back.
And I think that this is the kind of example.
Bro, it's crazy that they can't even fucking, they still, when they're covering the story in a critical tone, they still have to hand it to the Trump administration a little bit, where they're like, well, he might have been a criminal. There's actually some veracity to these claims. It's like, no, there isn't. There fucking isn't. And once you file a claim to be here, and a immigration judge decides that there is enough reason for you to fear for your safety, and therefore allow you to be here, something that the fucking current ICE administration has, the current administration's ICE agents have recognized. Why the fuck are you bringing this up?
That those of us that resist this administration ought to really be amplifying, because you have to make people in Wisconsin, in Florida, understand that could be you. This guy has no reason to be in a jail in El Salvador. He's only there because of Trump's policies. And now the Trump people are saying we can't do anything about it, whether we believe that or not. I mean, how do you do that in the United States of America? And to say to a court, well, his interest, the president's, outweighs the family. Well, I thought the president's interest was to protect all the citizens of the United States. Here's a woman who's a citizen whose husband is there, admittedly for no reason. This is a threat to everybody, but you have to drive that to the public to understand.
First of all, no one believes that the Trump administration cannot get this guy back. If they actually want to get him back, they may not. They've been dictating the terms of this relationship with El Salvador from the beginning, paying $6 million to take all these alleged criminals. And I think the larger point, Joe, something we talk about, which most Americans say, if you have gang members who are here illegally committing crimes, get them out of the country.
Right.
People support that.
Nobody
But what
disagrees.
happens when you go in with a big net and scoop up a lot of people, in some ways indiscriminately, you're going to get stories like this.
Well, and this goes back to what we said the morning before Jeffrey Goldberg came on with the second signal info dump, which is sometimes the best political move, the smart political move, is to say we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Not going to do it again. In fact, we've learned from our mistake. And while we think this is a policy that most Americans want, and we said we were going to do, we made a mistake with this one gentleman. We're going to bring him back, and he's going to go through the correct deportation process, and he'll have due process, everything else. So, yeah, but to say we don't have the power, nobody believes that. So, again, sometimes it's just best to say, hey, we're doing a lot of stuff. We messed up. We're going to bring this guy back and do the right thing.
The problem is...
And Americans will say, okay, this policy, I support the policy, and they're admitting when they make a mistake.
The entire flights are in question because these people did not receive due process, and the judge, so there's a bigger issue going on about the entire group of men that were sent to El Salvador, and more being sent now. And now they're saying a mistake, but we can't fix it. My God. We'll be following this. We'll have much more
But again,
tomorrow.
the thing is, this is something that, first of all, was promised on the campaign, but it was promised for criminals, right? Number one.
Right.
Number two, it is a policy that the overwhelming number of Americans support. So carried out in a way.
This is the voice of the opposition, dog. We're in Nazi Germany, okay? Like, even in an instance where the only reason why this is a story is because the ICE facilities, the ICE administrators admitted to their wrongdoing and then said, my bad, nothing we can do about it. This is not the only person who has been deported with erroneous claims. Okay? This is the only person so far that they have recognized they've deported with erroneous claims. And this is the coverage that you're affording to the matter? Oh, well, Americans did vote for this. They wanted this. Like, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
Way that will keep the overwhelming Americans on your side. And when you make a mistake, admit it, fix it, and Americans are like, okay, they fixed it.
I'm losing my mind.
El Salvador recognizes that these gang members are members of a terrorist organization, which is exactly how President Trump is approaching MS-13 and TDA as well.
That's Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on her recent trip. She joins us now. Thank you for having us at the department.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here today.
First, I want to ask you about President Trump. He said the attacks on Teslas. Do you see that as domestic terrorism?
I do, and it's an act of violence, and it has ramifications on community members and at times has risked people's lives. I do see that as an act of domestic terrorism, and we certainly have a president who's willing to use his full authorities to go after people that choose to destroy people and communities and businesses in the way that people have.
I want to talk to you about your trip. El Salvador, Colombia, Mexico. What did you take away from that?
Well, my task as Homeland Security Secretary is to secure the homeland of the United States of America. So I have jurisdiction over every person that comes in and out of this country, every product that comes in and out of this country, and everything that transpires over the internet. Talking to these presidents of these three countries was very productive. I had a conversation with the president of El Salvador about the TDA members that he accepted and took into his CCOP prison. We toured that prison, which I'm sure you are well aware of.
And that was some of the most striking
there.
Images from that trip,
yeah.
of you touring that prison. Just the image alone, was that sending a message?
Yes, people need to see that image. They need to see that the United States is going to use every tool that we have to make our communities safer, that is a consequence of someone who is a terrorist. The president has declared Tren de Aragua and MS-13 as terrorist organizations, and the president of El Salvador has as well. The only people allowed in that prison are terrorists. And to tour that and to look at that was giving the American people the transparency that they want out of their government. They were able to see exactly where we're sending these people who have murdered and raped Americans, that have decimated communities, and there's going to be consequences for individuals who continue to do that. My conversation with that president was, will you take more of these terrorists? And he said, absolutely, we will. We will take the worst of the worst and make sure that they're facing consequences for what they've done to your country.
I think there's a lot of people who look at this, Madam Secretary, and say, yes, get the bad guys out. But they want to make sure that the people that are rounded up and taken out are really those guys. There are some allegations from activists and media and immigration attorneys that a few of the people you sent to El Salvador via the Alien Enemies Act are not members of criminal gangs, or that they might not be. Do you see those as credible at all? And if you found out, would you work to take them out of El Salvador?
I trust our intelligence agencies and the intelligence individuals that are within the Department of Homeland Security, that the individuals who are there are members and a part of this organization and have worked with them. And while we were there at that prison, we not only talked about...
The activists he's talking about are literally the legal counsel of these victims, okay? They're not fucking activists. They're immigration attorneys. And depending on what he's talking about, it could even mean federal immigration judges. These are not fucking activists, dude. What are you talking about? These are people who are trying to defend their clients, as the federal government is actively taking away every point that they could defend their clients, including due process.
How to identify these members of these terrorist organizations, but what they did, their actions they took, the case files we built on them, and how we verified that those individuals should be there in that prison.
So you're pretty
we'll
confident.
continue to do that. I am. I am very confident in the fact that those individuals that are there should be there, and that by belonging to these organizations, they were choosing to be on the side that wanted to destroy the United States of America.
Immigration enforcement is one of the biggest things that is a positive for President Trump right now, yet Democratic lawmakers talk about it a lot. Take a listen.
Any immigrant can be accused of association with gangs and cartels, and they will be deported without due process of law.
There's not much to this president's agenda. It's tax breaks for the rich and rounding up immigrants. That's the whole program.
You have to have due process. What if you got the wrong person? That is the whole point of all of this.
So what do you say to those Democrats, and what's happening now with Tom Holman and what you're seeing on the border?
I would say those Democrats are doing exactly what they've done for years. They're trying to use fear to control people. They're using fear to promote their agenda and lying about what the situation is really here on the ground. We are doing due diligence to make sure that we're going after these criminals that have perpetuated violence on American citizens, and we're removing them from our country. Our president has told us clearly he's prioritizing these criminals and the worst of the worst, those with final removal orders, and that we're making sure that not only did we secure our border, but that we're making sure we don't let those people back into this country.
Lying is OP, projection is OP. Yeah. It's the Democrats that are going, hey, these Democrats aren't even against deportation, okay? They're against no fucking legal setting, no fair trial, no trial whatsoever, no due process whatsoever, and then doing deportations. They're saying if you're going to deport people, like, you have to investigate whether or not they are deportable. It's fucking insane. I'm losing my mind. Holy fuck.
We have deported Over 120 people that are on the known terrorist watch list out of this country, over 800 TDA members, and over 100,000 different arrests have been made of criminals that are out of this country. Every single family that can identify with Laken Riley's family, Jocelyn Nunguri's family, people who were devastated by these criminals are thankful that they're gone, and President Trump is on the right side of history.
Do you think the Mexican president, you talked to her, is doing enough to defeat the cartels down there?
You know, we talked extensively about that. I gave her some options of more she could do. She's participated a lot on our southern border, but we want her to secure her southern border with Guatemala. We want her to share some more information with us. Right now, we don't scan every single shipment that comes into this country over air freight. We have some information sharing that could happen on criminal background checks. So I gave her a list of things that President Trump would be very happy to see, and she was remarkable. It was supposed to be a half-hour meeting. We met for almost 2 hours. Very productive. She did sign some of those agreements with us, and I asked her specifically to share biometric information with us, and she's willing to discuss that, even though that in her country would be a little bit controversial. But she's putting a good faith effort. But President Trump is clear. He doesn't want people to keep talking. He wants to see action, and she has an opportunity to do some things that I will give a report to the president on and see if we can deal with the tariff situation that may be facing her people.
Madam Secretary, you talk about the terrorist watch list and the people rounded up. We are removed from 9/11, but the terrorist threat is still there. What do you tell people about what you see every day, knowing what you know, about the terrorist threat facing this country?
That it's very real. It could happen today. It could happen.
She's like, yeah, these loony leftists are complaining about due process being violated, which I just defended and I think is awesome. But also, they're doing it with, they're trying to spark fear through erroneous claims. Also, immediately after, I'm going to tell you that a 9/11 can happen at any given moment. A 9/11 today, a 9/11 tomorrow, a 9/11 every day. I'm actually stopping 9/11s happening 9 times out of the 11 days that I've been in office. Actually, I love 9/11. 9/11 is the best. 9/11 all the time. Please panic. Please panic. 9/11 all day, every day. Please panic. Psycho. Yeah, good thing Republicans don't try to stoke fear in the hearts of Americans, in the minds of Americans with ridiculous claims, dude. Good thing that's just a Democratic Party thing that the Democrats do.
Happen tomorrow. We have people in this country that would do 9/11 all over again if given the opportunity. And we have to have a strong president that stays dedicated towards securing not just the interior of our country, but the exterior, and using every tool that he has to fix what Joe Biden broke. Joe Biden purposely broke this country and our democracy and put us at grave risk. So I'm so thankful that we have a president that recognizes the threats that we have and lets me do my job to follow through on what task he gave me.
You know, we had a lot of focus on the Doge interviews I did with Elon Musk and members of that Doge team. They've been in every agency. I assume they're here.
They are.
You're working with Doge. What are they finding, and are they rooting out some of the waste fraud?
Yeah, they've been fantastic. We have worked with them. I take a lot of extra items to them, all my contracts, evaluations, people who are in position, should they be there? Is this the mission that that agency was created for? What can we do to become more streamlined and efficient? They have been extremely helpful in helping us identify that and looking at where the American people are getting ripped off. And that they're tired of. I tell everybody that every dollar that goes out the door that shouldn't be spent is somebody's Social Security check that won't be there someday when they need it. And President Trump, by allowing Elon and the Doge team to be in here and evaluate everything, really brings a new accountability to government that we've never seen. And is it going to be ugly? Absolutely. For these bureaucrats here who are fighting us every single day, who don't want the dollars to quit getting spent, who want to keep their jobs, yeah, they're going to fight back. But I will tell you, this government is more responsive than it's ever been before. It's refreshing to be here.
Surprising that Kristi Noem now loves dogs all of a sudden. A real Doge annihilator over here all of a sudden is a fan of Doge.
Under an administration that truly gets up every day and decides, you know what, today I'm fighting for the American taxpayer. You know, taxpayers oftentimes in our offices don't have a lobbyist that shows up for them. There's lobbyists that show up for every other industry and every other contract and every other business. The American common man deserves a person that will sit there and lobby for them, and that's President Trump.
Well, Madam Secretary, thank you very much. We'll talk down in the National Operations Center in a bit.
Sounds good.
Honestly, that's basic stuff. In fact, if you violate the law, that's exactly when due process kicks in, because you get to have a hearing of some kind to determine whether or not the case against you is true. I don't understand why that's even something a congressperson would say.
Well, just to the overall premise, President Trump was elected by the American people to secure the border, end human trafficking, and defeat the drug.
You fucking bots, bro. Every conservative spokesperson for the admin is a goddamn bot. They just straight up repeat the same points over and over again. President Trump has the heavens mandate. God ordained him to save the American people. And that's why we have to kill every Guatemalan. You don't understand.
Damn, this guy's good.